Chapter 1256. Baisusu was a demon with tens of thousands of years of accumulation. Although she was only a perfected heavenly god, her divine power was extremely dense. She was probably not much weaker than an ordinary divine king. She originally wanted to enter the Void Realm to search for the Thunder Dragon Grass. She hoped to use the Thunder Dragon Grass to take the final step and become a divine king. However, she did not expect to meet the Talisman King. At that time, the Talisman King seemed to be at the critical moment of building the flesh altar. He struck her across the air and severely injured her. If the Talisman King was able to free himself, she would not have been able to escape. Therefore, although she knew that Zhao Ritian was a divine king, she did not think that he could defeat the Talisman King. Miss Bai, the Talisman King is building the flesh altar. It is said that he wants to break the seal and head to the trial ground to slaughter all the geniuses who are participating in the Void Trial. Those people are the future of the human race. Perhaps there will be a supreme expert among them. Therefore, no matter what, I have to go and destroy the flesh altar. I can't let the Talisman King break the seal. Ling Xiao said seriously with a righteous look on his face. Of course, half of it was an act while the other half was Ling Xiao's heartfelt words. He really did not want the Talisman King to break the seal. Instead, he wanted to capture the Talisman King and get information about the Great Void Emperor's inheritance from him. I admire Brother Zhao's righteousness. I'm willing to go with you. As long as you can hold the Talisman King back, I'm confident that I can destroy the flesh altar to repay you for saving my life. Baisusu's eyes flickered with a hint of admiration as she spoke seriously. It was Ling Xiao's turn to be surprised. He did not expect the White Snake to be willing to fight the Talisman King with him. After all, even if Ling Xiao could hold the Talisman King back, there would be many heavenly god talisman men around. Baisusu would have a hard time dealing with them. However, Ling Xiao believed Baisusu when he saw her pure eyes. The White Snake really wanted to help him. All right, I do need a helper. However, you're severely injured now. Even if you come with me, it will be difficult to deal with those talisman men. This is a 5-colored divine dragon fruit. Take it and heal yourself. Let's go. Ling Xiao said indifferently. Light flashed in his hand, and a 5-colored god dragon fruit appeared. He tossed it to Baisusu as if it were a piece of trash. 5-colored divine dragon fruit? Baisusu's expression changed slightly as well. The pentacolored divine dragon fruit was a supreme-grade divine herb that was on par with the lightning dragon grass. Furthermore, it contained a wisp of the dragon tribe's origin power, which was extremely beneficial to her. This 5-colored divine dragon fruit would not only heal her injuries, but it would also improve her cultivation. Once she obtained the thunder dragon grass, she would probably be able to instantly advance to the godly king stage. Thank you. Baisusu had never thought that this strange human would give her such a precious divine herb so easily. She stared at Ling Xiao's back seriously before swallowing it in a single gulp. She refined the energy of the 5-colored divine dragon fruit as she chased after him. Baisusu was a white snake. She possessed the bloodline of the primordial lightning dragon, so she could control the power of the laws of lightning. The divine dragon fruit would be extremely useful to her. It could even purify the power of her bloodline. The 5-colored divine dragon fruit turned into a majestic energy that exploded within Baisusu's body. Fortunately, she was a Yao, and her body was strong enough to withstand and refine the power of the 5-colored divine dragon fruit. Otherwise, an ordinary person would have most likely exploded. Baisusu's injuries began to heal at a visible rate, and her presence became more and more powerful. When it reached a certain limit, it immediately became vague again. She was completely surrounded by white mist, as if she had vanished from the world. What a wondrous way of concealing her presence! Ling Xiao's eyes flashed. When Baisusu was hidden in the mist, even with the power of his primordial spirit, he could not sense her presence. The fluctuation of her presence was similar to the sky-devouring secret skill. Even the wordless heavenly book in Ling Xiao's mind trembled slightly. This is the power of a secret skill? Ling Xiao was shocked. Baisusu had actually cultivated a secret skill from the wordless heavenly book. He had thought that Baisusu was just an independent demon. However, the mysterious fluctuation of the secret skill made Bai Susu's identity a little mysterious. With the concealment of the secret skill, Bai Susu really seemed to have turned into a cloud. If Ling Xiao had not seen it with his own eyes, he would have thought that Bai Susu had disappeared. This secret skill was even better than the sky-devouring secret skill's concealment technique. After all, the sky-devouring secret skill was not a true concealment technique. It was only an additional effect due to the nature of devouring. However, before Ling Xiao could ask any questions, they were already close to the valley where Talisman King was. There are sounds of fighting? Ling Xiao's eyes flashed. He could feel that there were sounds of fierce fighting coming from the valley where Talisman King was. Rumble. Heaven and earth shook violently. The ground rumbled, and dazzling divine light exploded in the distance. It was as though a resplendent sun had set in the valley, emitting endless light. Talisman King, you are indeed a good person. You spent so much effort to build the flesh altar, and create the illusion that you want to break the seal. Is this all for the sake of killing me? An old voice that was cold and filled with anger sounded. The valley was filled with dazzling light, as though it had formed a vast array world. An old man with white hair and a white beard, wearing a golden robe, rose into the sky. His fighting spirit was rising, and strong winds were blowing. His entire body emitted a terrifying fluctuation. It's Tong Yuan. Ling Xiao's eyes revealed a trace of surprise. He had not expected this old man to be the dean of Ares College, Tong Yuan. Kill you? Tong Yuan. Aren't you overestimating yourself? If it weren't for the 5 of you, why would I use the jade plate fragment to set up this 9-layer creation divine array? Lu Shualing, Tyrant, Jian Chun Ji Gyuan, the 4 of you old dogs can get out now. A young man in a black robe stood in the sky. He looked extraordinarily handsome, and his face was filled with various mysterious runes. Divine chains of order circled around him, and his aura was terrifying. He was like an emperor that suppressed the heavens, without a trace of emotion. His eyes were mysterious, dignified, and indifferent, as though they could see through the endless void. Although Ling Xiao had never seen Talisman King before, he was sure that the young man in front of him was the king of all talisman men, Talisman King. He is indeed very strong. He has probably reached the great circle of the Divine King realm? Ling Xiao exclaimed in his heart. Rumble. At this moment the void shook, and dazzling light shone. 3 men and 1 woman appeared beside Tong Yuan. All of them had extraordinary temperaments and terrifying auras. They were all divine kings, and they were the deans of the other 4 colleges. However, their expressions were very ugly. The 4 of them were originally hiding in the dark, and were prepared to come here with Tong Yuan to destroy the flesh altar, and take the opportunity to kill Talisman King. However, they did not expect to fall into Talisman King's trap. The 9-layer creation divine array formed a space of its own. In this divine array, it was impossible for them to return to the Great Void ancient city. The only thing they could do was to kill Talisman King, and only then could they escape. Chapter 1257. Fellow Taoist Zhao, when shall we make our move? Bai Susu's voice was transmitted into Ling Xiao's mind. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed as he looked at the battle in the distance and said slowly, "Let's wait a little longer. The deans of the 5 academies are also extremely powerful. They might be able to deal with Talisman King. If we go now, we won't be able to break the 9-layered divine formation of creation." The entire valley was enveloped by the 9-layered divine formation of creation, forming a vast formation space. The flesh altar was located in the valley, so Ling Xiao and Bai Susu could not sneak in without alerting anyone. Ling Xiao was also rather shocked in his heart. The Talisman King actually wanted to rely on his own strength to kill the 5 great deans. It was likely that this Talisman King's battle strength was extremely terrifying. Rumble. The battle between the divine kings in the distance instantly erupted. The void shook violently and the divine light was dazzling. It was as if it had turned into a vast ocean, enveloping Talisman King and the 5 deans. Kill him. Lu Shualing, the dean of the Taishang Palace, had a murderous look in her eyes. She immediately unsheathed an ancient sword and released a cold sharp light. It instantly pierced through the void and slashed towards Talisman King. The sword contained an extreme killing power, as if it wanted to destroy all life. It was a sword of death. The chilling sword essence swept across the surroundings, making Ling Xiao feel the ruthless sword essence. Taishang emotionless sword qi. Lu Shuoling's cold voice rang out. In an instant, sword qi filled the sky and enveloped Talisman King in an overwhelming manner. Taishang emotionless sword qi? Unfortunately, you still don't know what Taishang's sword principle is. Talisman King said indifferently. His eyes were indifferent. Ripples spread out from his body in an instant. They rumbled and rose like lightning, causing him to emit an extremely terrifying aura. Crack. He stood in the void and didn't move at all. However, when the most emotionless sword qi that filled the sky slashed at him, it was as if they were slashing at metal. They emitted a resplendent light before they were annihilated. What? Lu Shuoling's face changed. She had cultivated the sovereign emotionless sword qi for several hundred years. She believed that she had mastered it, and that she could probably kill regular god kings. However, she had never thought that the sovereign emotionless sword qi would fail to even penetrate the Talisman King's body. Come and take a punch from me. A sharp glint flashed in Talisman Wang's eyes as he threw a punch at Lu Shuoling. Boom. The black fist print swept across the void like a supreme star. It contained a monstrous aura that was vast and mighty. It seemed to compress the surrounding void, leaving only this incomparably ferocious fist. The ancient sword in Lu Shuoling's hand instantly split apart when she sensed that terrifying fist intent, and then it transformed into countless rays of light that slashed down towards Talisman King while she retreated swiftly. Talisman King, don't you dare! The tyrant's bell-like eyes widened, and the violent blood qi around him exploded. He looked like a human-shaped beast as he punched towards Talisman King. Kill! Tong Yuan's battle-intent sword as well. It was filled with a mysterious concept. He slammed his palm towards Talisman King. The palm print was simple and crude, like an ancient divine mountain that contained the strength of millions of kilograms. Sword intent sword around Jianqian, and the surrounding flowers and trees actually produced the sound of metal clashing. It was like streaks of sharp sword qi. Then, as he drew his sword, a snow-white river shot through the sky. It was extremely fast as it directly slashed towards Talisman King's neck. Zhou Tian's flaming blade. Ji Guyuan directly drew a crimson blade. It was simple and unadorned, but it contained a monstrous baleful aura. Endless flames soared as if they had transformed into rays of light that surged towards Talisman King. At this moment, the 5 deans were united against a common enemy. They all used their ultimate techniques in an attempt to kill Talisman King before them directly. The 5 deans are all at the Great Perfection God King realm, similar to Talisman King's cultivation. However, I'm afraid that they might not be Talisman King's opponent. Ling Zhao's heart suddenly jolted as he thought to himself. The attacks of the 5 deans were extremely terrifying, but for some reason, Ling Xiao felt that they were not Talisman King's opponent. If there were no accidents, it was very likely that they would be defeated by Talisman King. Boom. Talisman King's punch exploded. Like an erupting volcano, blazing divine light swept out in all directions. The rays of light that Lu Shuoling had split into collapsed one after another. She was also sent flying by the unparalleled fist intent. Bang! The tyrant, who had unleashed his terrifying physical strength, used the Tyrant King's divine fist and collided with Talisman King's attack. However, his entire body was sent flying backwards at an even faster speed. It was as if he was swept away by a terrifying torrent. His arms trembled violently as if they would turn into dust at any time. You're still too weak. Talisman King's eyes erupted with blazing divine light. The runes around him instantly turned into divine chains that pierced through the surroundings. They contained an extremely terrifying power. Boom. He slammed his palm towards the sky. Immediately, Tong Yuan's unparalleled palm print exploded and sent Tong Yuan flying backwards. Then, Talisman King hugged the void, and the surrounding void began to rumble. It was as if there were thunderous explosions. His arms pushed the stars in the sky like a peerless divine hammer. It was as if he was going to pierce through the heavens and the earth. Skyfall hammer. Talisman King spat out a few obscure syllables. In the next moment, the power of his punch instantly exploded. The snow-white sword light and flaming blade aura that were slashing towards him were like 2 torrents. However, under this unparalleled fist, they were instantly turned into dust. Jianchen and Ji Guyuan's eyes were filled with disbelief. When they were swept by the terrifying fist intent, it was as if they were struck by lightning. They instantly coughed out blood and flew backwards. What? Ling Zhao's body shook violently. He did not look at Jianchen and Ji Guyuan's outcome. His eyes were fixed on Talisman King with disbelief. He had never thought that he would see the Skyfall Hammer, a peerless fist technique, from Talisman King. Moreover, Ling Zhao could feel that Talisman King's Skyfall Hammer had an invincible fist intent that could turn the entire world into a cannon and crush everything in its path. This was the complete Skyfall Hammer. Although the Skyfall Hammer fist technique that Ling Zhao obtained was powerful, he did not obtain the true inheritance of this fist technique. Talisman King actually knows the Skyfall Hammer. It seems like he must know the origin of this peerless fist technique. Ling Zhao's eyes were filled with shock as he thought to himself. The power of the three fist techniques was extremely terrifying. Ling Zhao guessed that it was at least a saint technique martial art, or even beyond the saint technique category. However, it was a pity that he only obtained 3 fist techniques. Moreover, there was no true inheritance, so it was incomplete. Chapter 1258. Tong Yuan, Lu Shuling, the Tyrant King, Jianchen, and Ji Guyuan were also shocked. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. The Talisman King before them had the same cultivation as them, but his combat strength was too terrifying. He was unbelievably powerful. If this continued, the 5 of them would definitely be defeated one by one. We can't let this continue. Set up the Great 5 Elements battle formation. We must kill him today. Tong Yuan's eyes revealed a trace of determination as he spoke with murderous intent. The Talisman King's strength was beyond their imagination. None of the 5 of them could withstand a single attack from the Talisman King, which made them extremely shocked. All right. Lu Shuling and the others nodded in agreement. Rumble. A light flashed in Tong Yuan's hand, and in an instant, a 5-colored divine ring floated up. It contained an extremely mysterious energy fluctuation. Lu Shuling and the other 3 also intertwined their auras according to the position of the 5-colored divine ring. In an instant, they formed the Great 5 Elements battle formation. The auras of the 5 of them seemed to have overlapped, allowing each of them to possess 5 times the combat strength. Using the power of a sage treasure? Great 5 Elements battle formation? Now this is interesting. But you still have to die. The Talisman King's eyes flashed. He looked at the 5 Elements ring with some surprise and sneered. He could see that the 5 Elements ring was a flawless sage treasure that contained the 5 Elements sage Tao. It could allow the cultivation of the 5 of them to merge into one. As their auras intertwined, their strength would increase by more than 5 times. Talisman King, you're too arrogant. The power of the 5 Elements ring is not something you can contend with. If you open the 9 creation divine formation now, and let us go, you'll definitely die today. Tong Yuan's eyes flickered as he spoke slowly. With the power of the 5 Elements ring, they formed the Great 5 Elements battle formation, which allowed them to contend with the Talisman King. However, Tong Yuan also knew the strangeness of the Talisman Man, and the strength of the Talisman Tao. They were not sure if they could defeat the Talisman King. I'm not arrogant. You're too weak. Take my move, Star Picking Hand. Talisman Wang sneered. He did not care about the 5-element ring at all as he grabbed at Tong Yuan, and the other 4 with his palm. The Talisman King's figure was tall and majestic, like a humanoid true dragon. His entire body was filled with violent energy. He looked incomparably wild, and his aura was extremely powerful. His palm seemed to have instantly pierced through layers of the void, directly aiming for the hearts of Tong Yuan and the other 4. It was as if he wanted to kill them directly. The star-plucking hand could enter the 9 underworlds and seize souls. It could go up to the 9 heavens and pluck the stars and moon. This martial technique contained the transformations of the void, and possessed a vast and unparalleled might. Ling Zhao stared at Talisman King closely, and memorized every trace of the star-picking hand that Talisman King used. He studied it carefully and felt that he had benefited a lot. Kill. The tyrant's temper was the most violent. He could not hold it in any longer, and threw a punch at the Talisman King. The forbidden move of the tyrant's divine fist, Crushing vacuum. The power of the 5 people all merged into the tyrant's body at this moment, making him feel like he was about to explode. It was as if his entire body was about to shatter. This punch was the most powerful punch he had ever used in his life. It caused the surrounding void to tremble violently. It actually allowed him to strike out with the crushing vacuum concept. Rays of divine light were annihilated. It was as if all life was about to be turned into dust by this punch. Bang! The void trembled. The Talisman King and the tyrant clashed head-on. It was as if a muffled thunder had exploded. The two of them actually flew back at an even faster speed. After fusing 5 times his strength, the tyrant finally possessed the strength to contend with the Talisman King. Awesome. Haha. Again. The battle intent in the Talisman King's eyes soared. The blood and chi in his body seemed to be boiling. The mysterious runes on his body shone brightly, and affected the vast power of runes between heaven and earth. It gave him a feeling that his words were the law. Swoosh. At the same time, Lu Shuling and Jian Chen also made their moves. Both of them were sword cultivators. Their sword intent was connected to each other. They emitted a violent aura that could destroy heaven and earth. Rays of sword light gathered in the void and surged toward the runes like waves. As for Jiguyuan's Zhoutian's flaming blade, it emitted an ancient and mysterious fluctuation. It was as if it could burn Zhoutian. The blade light illuminated the horizon. Above Tong Yuan's head, the 5 elemental ring shone brightly. Rays of divine light intertwined like chains and wrapped around the Talisman King. The 5 elemental ring was a complete saint treasure. It contained an extremely terrifying power. Under Tong Yuan's activation, the Talisman King's eyes revealed a slight surprise. Voidquake. A sharp light flashed in the Talisman King's eyes. He instantly soared into the sky and punched down from the 9 heavens. Boom. The talisman markings around him shone dazzlingly, causing the surrounding space to tremble slightly. Then, with his fist as the center, a mysterious force field spread out, containing the fluctuations of energy that could destroy everything. The entire world began to tremble. In Ling Zhao's perception, the surrounding void was shaking violently. The mountains, rivers, sea of clouds, and the starry sky all emitted a strange rhythm. Rumble. The dazzling sword light was swept away. The flaming blade light also shattered in an instant. The Talisman King's punch seemed to be able to destroy everything. In the end, it directly imprinted on the 5 elemental ring. Buzz. The 5 elemental ring trembled slightly, and made a crisp sound. Dazzling divine light gushed out, and enveloped the world. If it weren't for the power of the 9-layered divine formation of creation, this attack would probably be able to turn all the mountains within 1,000 miles into dust. Rumble. Amidst the dazzling divine light, the Talisman King suddenly flew back. His feet stepped on the void and made a thunderous sound. The faces of Tong Yuan and the other deans were also a little ugly. The power of the 5 elemental battle formation, and the perfect 5 elemental ring, was actually only a draw with the Talisman King. What kind of martial art is that? If I can obtain this martial art, my strength will definitely increase tremendously. The great conqueror's eyes revealed a hint of hidden greed. The Talisman King's powerful fist intent shocked everyone. Other than Lu Shuling and Jian Chen, who were pure sword cultivators, Tong Yuan, the great conqueror, and Jiguyuan were all extremely interested in the Talisman King's martial art. Could it be that person's inheritance? They suddenly thought of that forbidden name, and could not help but tremble. Their eyes were filled with excitement. Trash will always be trash. Even if you have the 5 elemental ring, you still can't do it. The Talisman King sneered. The divine light around his body was dazzling as he continued to attack Tong Yuan and the other 4. An intense battle broke out again. Chapter 1259. Rumble. In the valley, some kind of change suddenly occurred. Dazzling divine light burst out, and a blood-red altar rose into the sky. It emitted a vast wave of energy, and there seemed to be mysterious lines intertwining on it, forming a mysterious rune pattern. As the blood-red altar rose, the entire world began to tremble violently. Not good. Fellow Taoist Zhao, Talisman King has activated the flesh altar. I'm afraid he's trying to break the seal by force. Are we not going to do anything? Bai Susu's voice was solemn. Ling Zhao's eyes flashed with a sharp light. He wanted to take action immediately and destroy the blood-red altar. However, he suddenly felt a fatal sense of danger. It was as if he would be in great danger if he showed himself now. That sense of danger seemed to be able to threaten his life, and it made the depths of his soul tremble. Let's wait a little longer. Ling Xiao gritted his teeth and chose to continue observing. He felt as if a great evil was about to awaken. Talisman King, you're courting death. Tong Yuan and the other deans' faces changed drastically. They could feel that the blood-red altar contained an extremely terrifying power. The seal of the trial ground began to tremble, as if it could not withstand the power of the altar, and was about to shatter. The flesh altar seemed to be intertwined with the rune energy of the entire void realm. The terrifying wave of energy made the godly kings feel powerless. They could not withstand the torrent at all. What made Tong Yuan and the others even more fearful was that if the seal of the trial ground was destroyed, it would be fine if the trial takers were killed. However, if they ruined the elders' plan, they would not be able to redeem themselves even if they died 100 times. No, we can't let Talisman King break the seal. We must destroy the flesh altar. The only thing we can do now is to summon the sage. Ji Guyuan said with an ugly expression. Agreed. The Overlord and Jianchen looked at each other and nodded in agreement. The 5 of them could not even protect themselves. They could not even deal with Talisman King, let alone the blood-red altar. All right. Tong Yuan sighed softly and looked at Lu Shuling. He nodded and made up his mind. Wang. Between the eyebrows of the 5 deans, a resplendent rune suddenly rose up at the same time, turning into a gorgeous light that exploded in the 9 heavens. Rumble. Suddenly, above the 9 heavens, lightning flashed and divine light rose. Golden lotuses flashed in the void, and holy light sprinkled down on the earth, creating all kinds of mysterious scenes. In the holy light, 3 powerful figures appeared in the void. They were all shrouded in bright divine light, and their faces could not be seen clearly. However, the vast power of the holy path made everyone want to kneel down and worship them. The sage had descended. Ling Zhao's gaze trembled. He finally knew the source of that sense of danger. The 5 deans had actually summoned 3 saints into the world. I guessed that there was a sage monitoring the void realm, but I didn't expect it to be true. Fortunately, I didn't make a move. Otherwise, I'm afraid I would have been reduced to dust in an instant. Ling Xiao thought to himself. Even if he had a golden warrior, he would not be able to withstand a single blow from a saint. 3 grand ancestors, these talisman humans are refining the flesh altar in an attempt to break the seal. We are not strong enough, so please help us subdue them. Tong Yuan and the other 4 immediately bowed respectfully to the 3 saints. Their eyes were filled with reverence. On the other hand, Talisman King's eyes were indifferent, but there was a divine light flickering in his eyes. He looked directly at the 3 saints in the sky without a trace of reverence. In fact, there was even a trace of madness in his eyes. Blasphemy, you deserve to die. An indifferent and ancient voice sounded in the void, and the surrounding void began to rumble. That was the power of the law, and it instantly suppressed Talisman King and the flesh altar. That power was so vast that Ling Xiao felt as if he was an ant. If that power were to come at him, he would probably be reduced to dust in an instant. Is this the power of the holy path? Ling Xiao could not help but clench his fists. Although the 3 saints' faces could not be seen clearly, their eyes were like the sun. They were filled with divine light, indifferent and cold. It was as if everything in the void realm was an ant in their eyes. Since the ant dared to provoke the saints, it must die. Rumble. That terrifying power spread toward Talisman King and the flesh altar. Everyone could see that Talisman King and the flesh altar would be reduced to dust in the next moment. However, in the next moment, something unexpected happened. The altar of flesh and blood suddenly burst into flames, turning into blood-red flames of nothingness that spread towards the 3 saints in the 9 heavens. At the same time, a glass-like streak of light shot out from the blood-red altar. It was like a crescent moon, pure and flawless, mysterious and unfathomable. It hovered in the air as divine inscriptions spread out, enveloping the surroundings. The 3 saints were also within it. Is that a fragment of the creation jade disk? Ling Zhao's body trembled, and his eyes were filled with a blazing light. He instantly recognized that the jade disc that flew out from the blood altar was a fragment of the creation jade disc. It looked much bigger than the fragment in his hand, and its power was extremely terrifying. What is Talisman King trying to do? Could it be that he wants to deal with the three saints? Ling Zhao could not help but be shocked when he thought of that possibility. Audacious ant, you're courting death. The three saints seemed to be furious. Immediately, the world rumbled, and the sun and moon dimmed. The world seemed to have fallen into darkness. This was the wrath of a saint that caused the world to change color. However, Talisman King could not help but laugh coldly. You're just three clones of a saint. What's there to be arrogant about? One day, I'll be stronger than all of you. Today, I'll temporarily borrow your clones. As soon as Talisman King finished speaking, the surrounding void shook, and the fragment of the creation jade disc shone even more brilliantly. An old man with white hair and beard appeared on the creation jade disc out of thin air. He actually emitted an aura that was not weaker than the three saints. For the great cause of our race, please die, fellow Taoists. The old man said indifferently, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. Rumble. Under his urging, rays of light burst out from the jade disc of good fortune, and merged with the scarlet fire of nothingness. Immediately, the fire of nothingness burned even more fiercely and directly enveloped the three sages. Bastard, all of you deserve to die. Talisman Saint, didn't you pass away? Damn it, why are you still alive? This is unforgivable. No, this is the void hellfire. The three saints let out thunderous roars, shaking everyone's blood and chi. The void seemed to be on the verge of shattering. The words of the three saints made Tong Yuan and the others feel as if their souls were about to leave their bodies. They felt as if they had fallen into an icy abyss, and their bodies began to tremble uncontrollably. Chapter 1260. Tong Yuan and the other deans looked at the Talisman King's indifferent expression, and suddenly understood. The Talisman King's real target was not them, but the three sages. He trapped Tong Yuan and the other deans with the 9-layered divine formation of creation, and forced them to their limits. Then he created the illusion that the flesh altar had destroyed the seal, and forced them to summon the three sages. Then he used the creation jade disc's fragment to set up a trap. The Talisman Saint took action, and imprisoned the three sages in one fell swoop. Then, he used the Nihility Hellfire to completely refine the three sages. Tong Yuan and the other deans could not help but tremble when they saw how scheming the Talisman King was. What joy is there in life? What pain is there in death? My three friends, you have been spying on the Void Realm for so many years. Even I had to fake my death to escape. However, today, for the sake of the Talisman tribe, please follow me to the underworld. The white-haired talisman man was the Talisman Saint that the sage mentioned. His face was filled with indifference. Rumble. His sacred body exuded a majestic aura. Dazzling divine light illuminated the void in all directions, causing heaven and earth to tremble. Mysterious ripples spread out in all directions, wanting to destroy everything. The Nihility Hellfire instantly burned the Talisman Saint's body. He did not resist, and there was not even a hint of pain on his face. The raging flames turned into a vast sea of fire. Even the void seemed to be burning. The three sages struggled in the Nihility Hellfire. They even wanted to escape. However, the creation jade disc's fragment shone brightly, as if it had fused with the power of the entire void realm. It firmly suppressed the three sages in the sea of fire. The three sages burned at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the end, they turned into three dazzling rays of light. A vast sage path aura spread out, and a dazzling rain of light sprinkled down. The entire void realm seemed to start shaking. The dark clouds changed color, and the wind and rain mixed together. It was a terrifying scene. Master! The Talisman King's face was filled with sorrow. Then he knelt down heavily and kowtowed deeply. He knew that the Talisman Saint did not hesitate to sacrifice his life, to destroy the clones of the three sages in order to fulfill his wish. Even the 9-layered divine formation of creation soared into the sky, and turned into 9 dazzling rings. It firmly imprisoned the sage path aura of the three sages. Although they were only clones of the three saints, They had been nurtured for countless years. They had even been nourished by the power of the runes in the Void Realm. They were extremely important to their main bodies. Now that the clones of the three saints had been destroyed, their main bodies would probably be severely injured as well. Without the sage's surveillance, the Talisman King could do whatever he wanted. The rise of the Talisman race will be commemorated with the blood of you despicable humans. Tong Yuan's and Talisman Man. SSS at the Void Realm. The Talisman Man King's body. Using the death of a saint to scheme against the avatars of three saints. What a great scheme. I masters me, I King's man. As the Man. He Lord of the Realms man. Esse. Ling Xiao exclaimed in his heart. He did not know if he was discovered by the sages. Even if he was discovered, it did not matter. After all, they were all dead. Boom. The three balls of light left behind by the three sages instantly became dazzling. They merged into the flesh altar like a torrent. The flesh altar shone brightly and merged with the creation jade disc fragments light. Then, a dazzling divine light shot out and shone on a certain spot in the void. Crack. Lightning flashed and the void trembled. Bolts of lightning intertwined with each other. It contained a mysterious and ancient energy fluctuation. It was as if an extremely mysterious ancient door had appeared. The creation jade disc fragment began to tremble, as if it was extremely excited. It was an ancient door. The two stone doors were tightly shut. There were patterns on them that looked like ripples of water. They emitted a strange light. What is this? Tong Yuan exclaimed. His gaze became extremely solemn. Such a vast power. Could this be the sage's place of inheritance? No. Only the power of the four sages could open this door. This is definitely not the sage's place of inheritance. Could this be the inheritance of that person? Lu Shualing and the great conqueror trembled. Their eyes were filled with disbelief and surprise. Get out of here. At this moment, the Talisman King roared. His voice was like thunder that exploded in the sky. Rumble. The void in all directions vibrated and beams of dazzling light spread out in all directions. The jade disc of good fortune above his head actually emitted divine chains of order, which instantly traversed the void and fell down. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. In the surrounding forest, there were dozens of figures that were imprisoned by the divine chains of order. Their eyes were filled with panic. There were also 3 white-haired old men, and a young boy with braided hair that shot into the sky. They broke through the restraints of the divine chains of order, and stood in midair as they looked at Talisman King with fearful expressions. And these 4 people were all Divine King experts. There were even 2 divine chains of order that swept toward Ling Xiao and Bai Susu. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed. The black koan sword emitted a blazing divine light, and slashed down from the sky, severing the 2 divine chains of order. At the same time, he and Bai Susu also appeared. It's the 3 brothers of the Heavenly Wolf King and the Illusory Child? Bai Mei's eyes flashed as he recognized the identities of the 4 God Kings. The 3 brothers of the Heavenly Wolf King were 3 notorious bandits. Legend had it that their father was from the Heavenly Wolf Demon tribe, and their mother was from the human tribe. Therefore they were half human and half wolf. However, they obtained a powerful inheritance by chance. That was why they were extremely powerful and could do whatever they wanted. The Illusory Child was extremely mysterious. Legend had it that he could activate the power of illusion. Many divine kings had fallen for his trick. Ling Xiao did not expect them to be here. A golden light flashed in Ling Xiao's eyes. He saw 2 familiar figures among the dozens of experts. The Heartless Swordsman and the Black Heart Old Man, the 2 experts he met outside the dazzling Gold City, had also come to the Void Realm. In the end, they were captured by the Talisman King. He wants to capture everyone in one fell swoop. Chapter 1261. Sneaky Scoundrels. Since you dare to come here, why are you hiding? No matter what, all of you have to die today. Talisman King sneered as he looked at the crowd before him. Above his head, the fragments of the good fortune jade disc floated and sprinkled down dazzling lights. They were as mysterious as a jade necklace. Rays of divine light swept out in all directions, as if forming a vast cage, imprisoning the entire world. His body exuded an extremely dangerous aura. He actually wanted to kill all the human clan experts in one fell swoop. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed. This talisman king was indeed meticulous. From dealing with the 5 deans, to slaughtering the 3 saints, and now, he wanted to kill all the experts of the human race. Ling Xiao was full of admiration for this kind of temperament and methods. Unfortunately, Ling Xiao did not want to become his stepping stone. Talisman King, do you think that you can deal with all of us by yourself? Tong Yuan's face was extremely ugly as he stared at Talisman King and asked, "You're just a bunch of weaklings. How much power can you unleash in the creation divine realm?" Talisman King sneered as his eyes were filled with disdain. Boom. The surrounding void shook as runes spread out, emitting a mysterious and vast power of law. It formed an extremely terrifying suppressive force that suppressed everyone's cultivation. What? Why did my cultivation drop by an entire realm? The laws here have been changed. How is this possible? Damn Talisman King, let me out. Everyone's eyes were filled with disbelief. The Heavenly God Realm experts were reduced to true God Realm cultivation base. Even the God King Realm experts were suppressed to Heavenly God Realm cultivation base. Tong Yuan, Lu Shualing the Tyrant, Jian Qin, and Ji Guyuan were completely terrified. Their eyes were filled with disbelief and fear. The cultivation that they relied on the most no longer existed. How could they be a match for Talisman King with their Heavenly God Realm cultivation? Only Ling Xiao had a strange look in his eyes because he realized that his cultivation was still at the late stage of the Divine Spirit realm. There was no change at all. Moreover, because he had fused with the Gold Warrior, the Gold Warrior was actually a Talisman Man expert who could use the power of runes. Therefore, this kind of suppression was meaningless to the Gold Warrior. The Gold Warrior still had the combat strength of a Divine King. Talisman King thought that he had everything under control. However, he did not expect Ling Xiao to be controlling a Gold Warrior. The Talisman King glanced at them indifferently and said, "All of you have slaughtered the people of my Talisman clan and seized our treasures. You have even blasphemed the Talisman ancestor. All of these sins can only be washed away with your blood. Don't worry, this is just the beginning, not the end. From today onwards, the entire God realm will tremble because of the appearance of the Talisman clan." Roar, roar, roar. As soon as the Talisman King spoke, the Talisman men in the valley began to cheer and roar loudly. Their eyes were filled with fanatical adoration. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The creation jade disc shone brightly. More divine chains of order swept across the sky and wrapped around the few divine kings, Ling Xiao, and Bai Susu. The few divine kings, including the deans of the 5 great academies, were no longer at the Divine King realm. Naturally, they could not resist the divine chains of order. They were instantly imprisoned and their eyes were filled with fear. Clang! A bright sword light flashed. Divine energy rose around Ling Xiao's body. The dark Kuan sword slashed down and broke the 2 divine chains of order. What? Originally, everyone was about to lose all hope. However, Ling Xiao's performance made them widen their eyes. Their faces were filled with disbelief and ecstasy. This unfamiliar young man was not suppressed by the fragment of the creation jade disc. He still had the combat strength and cultivation of a divine king realm. Suddenly, they saw a glimmer of hope. Talisman King's eyes flashed and he looked at Ling Xiao. "Who are you?" Ling Xiao said calmly. "I don't want to be your enemy. However, it's a pity that I'm interested in the creation jade disc on your head. Why don't you give it to me and I'll leave immediately?" Talisman King was stunned and his eyes turned cold. He did not expect Ling Xiao to ask for the fragment of the creation jade disc. That was an exorbitant demand. He was too arrogant. "Good, very good. You're really arrogant. Although I don't know why your cultivation is not suppressed. I don't need to know because you'll be a dead man soon." Talisman King's eyes were filled with killing intent as he said coldly, "Is that so? You're really powerful. However, it's a pity that I don't want to die. Why don't I kill you and take your creation jade disc, and help you inherit the inheritance of Emperor Taishu, the Talisman ancestor? How about that?" Ling Xiao smiled faintly and he looked extremely calm. "You know about the creation jade disc? Who are you?" Talisman King's body shook and his eyes instantly became extremely sharp. It was as if a blazing blade had shot out and was about to cut Ling Xiao into pieces. Even Tong Yuan and the other deans' faces changed drastically. They stared at the creation jade disc on Talisman King's head, and their eyes were filled with a blazing light. So, that's the creation jade disc? Legend has it that the Emperor Taishu had dominated the world and killed 3 great emperors in a row. The ancient door also confirmed their guesses. The Emperor Taishu's inheritance would drive everyone in the realm of the gods crazy. No wonder Talisman King wanted to destroy the clones of the 3 saints. He wanted to open the Emperor Taishu's inheritance. I'm just a nameless pawn. Talisman King, I have to say that I admire your methods and temperament. If I wasn't here, I'm afraid that you would have succeeded. However, it's a pity that you shouldn't have offended me. Ling Xiao said very calmly. Although the meaning behind his words was incomparably arrogant, it was as if he was stating a fact. Arrogant? Ah. So what if I offended you? Since you're looking for death, I'll fulfill your wish. Talisman King laughed in anger, and the murderous intent in his eyes seemed to have materialized. Rumble. Terrifying divine light rose around his body, and runes erupted one after another. His terrifying physical strength erupted, and he punched towards Ling Xiao. Talisman King was like a human-shaped Tyrannosaurus. His aura was extremely terrifying and his punch caused the surrounding void to tremble violently. This was purely the power of the physical body. The whistling sound and fluctuations that pierced through the void caused everyone's expression to change greatly. Good timing. Ling Xiao praised. Talisman King's physical strength was unparalleled, and it was the first time he had seen it. It caused him to feel extremely pressured. Skyfall Hammer. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed sharply. He put away the mysterious Kuran sword and hugged the heavens with his arms. An unparalleled fist print of the chaos origin pierced through the sky, and contained an energy fluctuation that could destroy everything. Talisman King's expression changed instantly. Chapter 1262. What Talisman King did not expect at all was that Ling Xiao actually executed the Skyfall Hammer Fist technique. How do you know the Great Void Emperor's Fist? No, you didn't get the true inheritance of the Great Void Emperor's Fist. You only know a little about it. Talisman King's eyes were sharp and his killing intent was boiling. Boom. He leaped into the sky in an instant, and a violent aura gushed out from his body. His hands embraced the heavens, and he swung an unparalleled fist print, which suddenly pressed down on Ling Xiao. Great Void Emperor's Fist? Is it the Great Void Emperor's martial arts? It is indeed a peerless fist technique. Ling Xiao sighed softly as the battle intent in his eyes burned even brighter. Rumble. The surrounding void trembled. Talisman King also performed the Skyfall Hammer. However, his Skyfall Hammer fist technique contained an ancient charm, as if it could break the entire world. It looked extremely perfect. Ling Xiao felt an extremely tragic and terrifying fluctuation from Talisman King's fist. Bang! The 2 fists collided and the surrounding void trembled. It was as if a small sun had exploded and brilliant divine light swept out in all directions. Both Ling Xiao and Talisman King trembled and flew backward at the same time. Awesome again. Ling Xiao's eyes were burning with battle intent, but he could feel that the Golden Warrior was still at a disadvantage. Talisman King's power was extremely terrifying, and he was extremely powerful. Star-picking hand. However, Ling Xiao could tell that Talisman King's Great Void Imperial Fist should have been imparted to him. That kind of peerless fist intent could not be faked. Ling Xiao wanted to perfect these 3 fist techniques through the fight with Talisman King. Therefore he attacked again. A bright light came across the sky. It was Ling Xiao's palm. It seemed to have pierced through the layers of void in an instant. The overwhelming palm print stretched out, and wanted to take all the stars in the sky into his arms. Kill! Talisman King's eyes grew colder, and his killing intent seemed to have materialized. Although Ling Xiao's Great Void Emperor's Fist was not the true inheritance, Talisman King realized that it was still extremely powerful when Ling Xiao used it. Talisman King had long regarded the inheritance of the Great Void Emperor as his own. Only he could cultivate the Great Void Emperor's Fist. Therefore, Ling Xiao had to die no matter what. He also used the star-plucking hand. It was a dark golden palm. It was as if all the light in the sky was covered by his palm. He grabbed at Ling Xiao. An endless palm prints appeared in the void. They were so densely packed that no one could tell which was the real one. Every single star-seizing hand contained an extremely terrifying power, and it wanted to completely crush Ling Xiao into powder. Rumble. Ling Xiao's gaze was incomparably sharp. He could feel the changes in the star-picking hand that Talisman King executed. Not only was its power unparalleled, but it was also ever-changing and contained an incomparably mysterious energy fluctuation. The palms exploded one after another, and Ling Xiao's figure retreated rapidly. His fists were like erupting volcanoes, constantly shattering the palms that filled the sky. Then he turned into a stream of light, and many afterimages filled the void. The power of teleportation. Void quake. The Talisman King roared, and an incomparably dazzling divine light erupted from his body. Ripples spread out, containing some kind of mysterious energy fluctuation. They were like waves, one after another. The afterimages that Ling Xiao left in the void were annihilated one after another. However, the Talisman King felt a sense of danger approaching. Without thinking, he threw a backhand punch. Boom. 4 dazzling divine lights came from the sky, containing the power of the 4 elephants. They intertwined with each other, and turned into an incomparably chaotic fist print. It suddenly blasted on the Talisman King's arm. The Talisman King's body shook violently. He felt as if the power of the runes around him was about to be assimilated by the chaotic light. He suddenly flew backward. 4 elephants sky-striking style. Ling Xiao's eyes were filled with a blazing divine light. He used the power of the Golden Warrior to execute the 4 elephants sky-striking style, and it exploded with an incomparably shocking power. At least, the power of the 4 elephants sky-striking style was not inferior to the Great Void Emperor's fist. My path is right, but it still needs to be verified and perfected. My cultivation is still too weak. Ling Xiao thought to himself. The battle intent in his eyes grew stronger. Great fist technique. You can actually integrate the power of the 4 elephants. However, you will never understand the terror of the Great Void Emperor's fist. Take the 4th move of my Great Void Emperor's fist, Star Transformation. The battle intent in the Talisman King's eyes rose. Although he did not know the background of the strange man in front of him, the powerful combat strength almost made the blood in his body boil. It was a long-awaited feeling of satisfaction that he had to completely vent. Rumble. Runes rose around the Talisman King's body. Dazzling light flickered. There were actually supreme stars revolving around him, containing an incomparably terrifying power. The numerous supreme stars revolved, and carried the divine energy of the universe. Talisman King was like a peerless emperor that moved through the river of stars, and he converged all the stars that covered the sky into a single punch before he smashed it down towards the sky. This punch was the ultimate fist of destruction. When executed by the Talisman King, it actually had the danger of destroying the world. Ling Xiao's body trembled. If it was not for the Golden Warrior with his cultivation, he was afraid that he would be completely crushed under the fluctuations of this punch. The 4th move of the Great Void Emperor's fist? It's really terrifying. Ling Xiao exclaimed in his heart. He could feel the impending danger, but his expression remained incomparably calm. Boom. Dazzling divine light rose behind him. The divine power of the 5 elements was as vast as the sea, and it erupted in all directions. Divine power surged around Ling Xiao's body, and his blood boiled. After that, he was wrapped in the divine light of the 5 elements as he blasted his fist towards the Talisman King. 5 elements sky-sealing style. This was a peerless fist technique that Ling Xiao had comprehended through the 5 great secret techniques. It contained the ultimate power of the 5 elements. Ling Xiao even felt that if he cultivated this fist to the limit, he could directly strip away the power of the 5 elements and completely turn a person into powder. Even now, the Talisman King was still greatly affected. He felt that the surrounding heavens and earth seemed to have become unfamiliar. The flow of the runes on his body had become extremely obscure. A mysterious barrier enveloped the surrounding void, and almost half of his strength had been stripped away. This change caused the Talisman King to involuntarily tremble. His eyes were filled with disbelief. Rumble. Star transformation vs 5 elements sky ceiling style. This extreme collision actually caused the void to be unable to withstand it. In an instant, a crack appeared, and streaks of void turbulence filled the air. In an instant, it completely swallowed a mountain. Everyone's eyes were filled with extreme fear. One should know that the heavens and earth of the divine world were incomparably sturdy. Even a divine king realm expert could not break the void. Only a sage could tear the void and even step into the void turbulence. Chapter 1263. Who is this young man in golden armor? I've never heard of such a divine king expert in the grand heavens territory. Tong Yuan's body trembled as he looked at Ling Xiao in confusion. That's right. I suspect that he's not an expert from the grand heavens territory. He might be from another heavens territory. The great conqueror nodded as his eyes were filled with emotion. Both Ling Xiao and Talisman King shocked the deans of the 5 academies. They even felt bitter in their hearts. This battle had finally shown them what it meant by, "There's always someone better than you." I hope that the young man in golden armor can stop Talisman King. Otherwise, not only will we die, but the lowly Talisman tribe will really rise. Ji Guyuan's eyes revealed a trace of unwillingness as he spoke. All of them nodded in agreement because the Talisman King's ambition was simply terrifying. No one had imagined that he would actually treat everyone as pawns and toy with them in the palm of his hand. Even the Talisman Saint and the 3 Saints clones had died because of him in the end, and they had even helped him open up the inheritance of Imperial Monarch Taishu. The 5 deans trembled at the thought of the land of inheritance of the Great Void Emperor. They could not wait to fly into the ancient door to receive the inheritance. Many experts from the human tribe who were bound by the fragments of the creation jade disc had placed their hopes on Ling Xiao. They only hoped that Ling Xiao could defeat Talisman King. Otherwise, they would all die here. Rumble. The supreme stars descended from the 9 heavens and collided with Ling Xiao's 5 elements divine light. A resplendent rain of light exploded between them. In the end, Ling Xiao and Talisman King's bodies trembled violently as they flew back from the center of the storm. This attack had almost caused Ling Xiao and Talisman King to be severely injured. Talisman King's mouth was bleeding, which was a ghastly sight. Although Ling Xiao seemed to be fine, it was only because the body of a golden warrior was too strong. Ling Xiao, on the other hand, had been injured and his divine body had cracked. Again, Talisman King's eyes were blazing with fighting spirit as he charged towards Ling Xiao again. Rumble. The battle between Ling Xiao and Talisman King became more and more intense. The two of them were like monkeys leaping into the sky. Their figures were incomparably fast. They rapidly collided in the void or landed on the ground. Their attacks shook the heavens and earth. Mountains were turned into dust under their fists. The ground cracked, sand and rocks flew, and countless towering ancient trees were blown to pieces. Everywhere was a scene of destruction. Ling Xiao noticed that the Talisman King was more like the body refiners of the human race. 90% of their powerful combat strength came from their physical body. They branded their physical body with mysterious runic lines, and absorbed the power of the runic lines to strengthen their physical body. Therefore, they were more similar to the path of using strength to prove their Tao. No matter if it was 1,000 divine abilities or 1,000 spells, they would be destroyed with a single punch. The body of the Golden Warrior was extremely strong, almost like a heavenly divine weapon. However, even with such a strong Golden Warrior, Ling Xiao felt that he could not withstand the attack of the Talisman King. If not for the fact that Ling Xiao could change and hide the energy core of the Gold Tier Warrior as he wished, perhaps his energy core would have been destroyed by the Talisman King long ago, and he would have lost his ability to fight. Ling Xiao felt that if the battle continued, both he and the Talisman King would only end up with injuries. Although the Gold Tier Warrior was strong, he was just a dead object with limited potential. Perhaps I can try using the mysterious Kuran sword. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed. The mysterious Kuran sword was a flawless divine weapon with unparalleled power. Perhaps it could catch the Talisman King off guard and injure him severely. However, the creation jade disc fragment in the Talisman King's hands made Ling Xiao rather fearful. As the king of the Talisman tribe, The Talisman King probably had many trump cards on him. Rumble. Right at this moment, the ancient door in the sky suddenly opened with a bang. The creation jade disc fragment seemed to have completed its mission. It flew back to the Talisman King's head and scattered a dazzling light. Boundless worldly essence chi gushed out from the ancient door. The divine light was incomparably blazing, and all sorts of mysterious phenomena appeared. That vast and terrifying wave of energy seemed to make everyone want to kneel down and kowtow. The land of inheritance of the Great Void Emperor has finally opened. Everyone's bodies shook. Then, their eyes were filled with wild joy. Talisman Wang also took a deep breath. His eyes were filled with incomparable excitement. He had been waiting for this day for far too long. For this, he did not hesitate to scheme against the clones of the three saints. Even the Talisman Saint had sacrificed himself for this. Human brat, I don't have time to play with you. The great Talisman Ancestor is summoning me. Once I obtain the Talisman Ancestor's inheritance, I'll personally send you on your way. The Talisman King's eyes revealed a trace of coldness. He glanced indifferently at Ling Xiao. Then he instantly soared into the sky and flew towards the ancient door. Swoosh! Swoosh! At the same time, the creation jade disc shone brightly. It bound the 5 deans, the 3 heavenly wolf king brothers, the illusory kid, and all the other heavenly gods and flew directly towards the ancient door. Their fate was obvious. Once they entered the ancient door, they would probably die at the hands of the Talisman King. Fellow cultivator, save us. Fellow cultivator, if you can help us, we'll definitely give you enough treasures. Fellow cultivator, you can't let the Talisman King go. If he obtains the inheritance of the Great Void Emperor, we'll all be finished. Everyone's eyes were filled with despair. They all shouted at Ling Xiao, hoping that he would save their lives. Clang! Ling Xiao's eyes flashed sharply. The mysterious Koan sword was unsheathed. A dazzling sword light traversed the void, containing an extremely vast energy fluctuation. The mysterious Koan sword began to tremble as Dugu Qiubai's sword split life and death, separating the power of the destruction sword principle and life sword principle. The black and white sword light intertwined like 2 divine dragons. They contained extreme destruction and extreme vitality as they slashed towards the Talisman King. Although Ling Xiao had only imitated a trace of Dugu Qiubai's Saint Path sword intent, it was still extremely terrifying with the support of the mysterious Koan sword. The Talisman King's expression changed slightly as he felt a fatal danger approaching. Under the control of the Golden Warrior, the mysterious Koan sword exploded with an extremely vast amount of Saint Path power. Ling Xiao's imitation of Dugu Qiubai's Saint Path sword contained an even more unpredictable energy fluctuation. Clang! Without hesitation, Talisman King decisively gave up on the experts of the human tribe. Then he took out the fragment of the jade plate of good fortune, which floated above his head and protected him. He sped up and was about to shoot into the ancient portal in an instant. Dazzling light exploded. The black and white sword light slashed at the fragment of the good fortune jade disc, and were annihilated at the same time. The Talisman King looked at Ling Xiao with burning killing intent in his eyes. He said coldly, "Human brat, you've angered me. The day I come out of seclusion will be the day you die." Boom! He shot into the ancient door in an instant and tried to close it from the inside, blocking everyone outside. Charge! Go get the inheritance of Emperor Taishu. Those people had just escaped from the Talisman King's control, but they were instantly mesmerized by the inheritance of Emperor Taishu. Their eyes turned red as they roared and charged forward. Bang! However, waves of water spread out from the ancient door. They were all blocked outside without a doubt. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed as he took out the fragment of the good fortune jade disc. It emitted a mysterious green light that enveloped him. He soared into the sky and rushed into the ancient door before it closed. Chapter 1264. In an ancient temple in the chaos void, countless stars seemed to be circling around it, emitting an eternal light. An old man with white hair and beard sat cross-legged in the void. Chaos chi surrounded him, and when he blinked, a terrifying divine light shot out from his eyes. Ift! Suddenly he spat out a mouthful of purplish gold blood. His face was pale, but his eyes were filled with rage. How dare you destroy my sacred body and destroy my merit? The talisman tribe deserves to die. A cold voice echoed in the ancient temple, shaking the chaos void. It contained a terrifying murderous intent. Lei Qianjue, get over here. Along with the thunderous voice, a dignified old man in black armor instantly flew into the divine palace and knelt down deeply. Greetings, Grand Elder. What orders do you have for me? The old man with white hair and beard looked at Lei Qianjue and said indifferently, Go to the Void Realm and kill all the talisman men. Find out what happened and report back to me. Yes, Grand Elder. Lei Qianjue replied respectfully. He then turned around and left the temple. A mysterious light flashed under his feet, and he disappeared into the chaos void. At the great frozen snow mountain, the sun rose and the moon set on the top of the mountain. Zhou Tian was surrounded by stars. The eternal cold aura from the great frozen snow mountain seemed to have frozen the entire world. A middle-aged woman in a white Taoist robe slowly opened her eyes. There was a trace of blood at the corner of her mouth. Talisman sage, you really don't care about your life just to destroy my sacred body. Could it be that the inheritance of that person is about to be born? The heavenly secrets are chaotic, and I can't divine it. Jing Xian, go to the Void Realm. The talisman sage is dead, and there is no need for the talisman tribe to exist anymore. Find out what exactly happened. A cold and indifferent voice sounded. Boom. As soon as she finished speaking, the sun, moon, and stars in the sky shattered at the same time. They turned into streaks of terrifying sword will, forming a vast storm of sword chi. Yes, Grand Elder. A peerlessly beautiful young woman in a white dress suddenly appeared by the white-robed woman's side. And then she bowed deeply to the white-robed woman before leaving silently. 9 Imperial Obelisk. Numerous magnificent palaces floated in the sky, surrounded by vast divine light and auspicious energy. Cranes danced in the air, and spiritual birds chirped softly. They emitted an eternal and dignified aura. In the central palace, a middle-aged man wearing a black dragon robe and a flat imperial crown stood up. He had a dignified appearance and gave off an invincible aura. An abnormal flush appeared on his jade-like face. Heavenly Strategies King, listen up. As his voice resounded through the imperial obelisk, a figure immediately shot into the palace and bowed deeply towards the man at the head. Greetings, Your Majesty. It was a man in a green robe. His eyebrows were like stars, and his eyes were like swords. He was valiant and extraordinary. Although he looked very young, the hair on his temples was slightly white, and there was a sense of vicissitudes in his eyes. Why don't you take a trip to the Void Realm? My sacred body has been destroyed. The talisman race cannot be forgiven. Kill all the talisman race and bring back all the suspicious people. A dignified voice sounded, containing a trace of icy cold killing intent. Yes. The Heavenly Strategies King's eyes trembled, and he instantly turned around and left the 9 Imperial Obelisk. In the Void Realm, no one noticed anything. They did not know that a huge storm was coming. Bai Susu had already received Ling Zhao's voice transmission. She used a secret technique and silently left the valley. Only Tong Yuan and the other deans, the 3 Heavenly Wolf King brothers, the Illusion Child, and the others were left staring at the ancient door in front of them. They could not do anything about it. The Talisman King and the golden-armored young man had already entered the ancient door. They were extremely excited when they thought that it might contain the Great Void Emperor's inheritance. However, they could not enter at all. The clones of the 3 sages have been destroyed. This matter is no longer within our control. Quickly contact the War God Temple, Supreme Dao Palace, and 9 Imperial Obelisk. Tong Yuan glanced at the other 4 deans and said slowly. The other 4 deans also nodded in agreement. If the news of the clones of the 3 sages being destroyed spread, the entire divine world and the 33 heavens would be shaken. Although the 5 great academies represented the 5 great powers, the Sky Tyrant Divine Nation, the Sky Sword Divine Nation, and the Great Zhou Divine Nation belonged to the 9 Imperial Gates. Therefore, the 3 saints were the Saint Patriarchs of the War God Hall, the Taishang Dao Palace, and the 9 Imperial Gates. One could imagine how furious the 3 patriarchs would be when their clones were destroyed. The 5 deans' expressions were ugly. They were even a little nervous. They did not know how the three ancestors would deal with them. At this moment, Ling Xiao had arrived in an unfamiliar world. Above his head was a vast starry sky. Supreme stars flickered, and the sun and moon shone brightly in the sky. In the distance, there was a mysterious nebula. Below his feet was an incomparably vast continent with mountains, rivers, lakes, and seas. It was magnificent and extraordinary. In front of Ling Xiao, there was a flash of light, and a figure with a powerful aura appeared. What? Ling Xiao's eyes widened in shock, revealing a look of disbelief. The figure in front of him looked exactly like him, except that he had a head of white hair. His eyes were deep, and he exuded an endless sense of vicissitudes. He was surrounded by 3,000 great worlds, and countless mysteries were worshipping him. Mysterious scenes of endless worlds appeared, making him look like an invincible great emperor. That's right, the figure in front of him was Ling Xiao's heavenly emperor celestial body. Ling Xiao felt that the wordless heavenly book in his sea of consciousness had disappeared. The golden warrior and the mysterious Kuran sword had also disappeared. He was the only one left. You're here. The heavenly emperor celestial body looked at Ling Xiao and said slowly, "You can speak? Where is this place? Who are you?" Ling Xiao's body shook as he looked deeply at the heavenly emperor celestial body and asked, "This is the place of inheritance of the great void emperor. As for me, I am you. You are me. We are originally one." The heavenly emperor celestial body said calmly, "The place of inheritance of the great void emperor? You are only one of my celestial bodies. Why are you here? And you are not under my control at all." Ling Xiao was shocked. He did not expect the heavenly emperor celestial body in front of him to have self-awareness. This was indeed the place of inheritance of the great void emperor. However, his heavenly emperor celestial body had been stripped away, which shocked him greatly. "You don't have to worry. I don't have self-awareness. I only have your consciousness." Chapter 1265. If you want to get the Emperor Taishu's inheritance, you have to go through the test he left behind. This is the first test. You can treat me as your mirror image. You and I are one. However, if you want to pass, you have to defeat yourself, which is me. Although the celestial emperor Dharma idol's words were a little awkward, Ling Xiao understood. The celestial emperor Dharma idol in front of him had a terrifying aura, but its cultivation was the same as Ling Xiao's. It was only at the late stage of the divine spirit realm. It could be treated as a test set by the Emperor Taishu. Only by defeating the celestial emperor Dharma idol could one pass the test. Ling Xiao guessed that the Talisman King was facing the mirror image of the Talisman King. Although the celestial emperor Dharma idol in front of him had the same cultivation as Ling Xiao felt a strong sense of danger from it. Do you know what the Emperor Taishu's inheritance is? What kind of test do you have to go through? Is the Talisman King also going through the test? Ling Xiao looked at the celestial emperor Dharma idol, wanting to get more information from it. "I don't know. I only know what you know. If you want to know the answer, it's very simple. You just have to defeat me." The celestial emperor Dharma idol said indifferently. "If that's the case, then let's fight." Ling Xiao's eyes flashed. The terrifying power of blood qi around him exploded. Golden divine light surged. Then, he threw a punch at the celestial emperor Dharma idol. Crack! The golden divine light attacked the celestial emperor Dharma idol like lightning. It contained a terrifying physical strength. The celestial emperor Dharma idol opposite him threw a punch at Ling Xiao. The direction, strength, and aura of the punch were exactly the same as Ling Xiao's. Bang! The two fists collided. A muffled sound came from the void. Ling Xiao and the celestial emperor Dharma idol retreated at the same time. Ling Xiao's eyes narrowed. The two of them retreated 1,231 steps at the same time. Not one step more, not one step less. It was a strange feeling. Ling Xiao felt like he was fighting another version of himself. Moreover, the other version of himself probably knew all of his martial arts, knew all of his magical powers, and even knew what he was thinking. Ling Xiao felt that this battle was going to be difficult. The celestial emperor Dharma power was another Ling Xiao. If he wanted to defeat the celestial emperor Dharma power, he had to defeat himself. But how could he defeat himself? Cultivation was the process of defeating oneself step by step. If one was able to defeat oneself, then one would already be a saint. One would have already transcended the heavens and earth, and would no longer be limited by things. However, Ling Xiao was only in the process of comprehending the origin of his strength. He had yet to defeat his own strength, so how could he defeat himself? But what was the point of the Great Void Emperor leaving behind such a test? Ling Xiao felt that if he could understand the meaning of the Great Void Emperor's test, he would be able to defeat himself and pass this stage. 4 Elephants Heaven Striking Style. Ling Xiao's mind was filled with thoughts, but his attacks were extremely fierce and merciless. He still needed to continue fighting to verify his conjecture. Rumble. The heavens and earth shook as the divine light of the 4 divisions shot up into the sky and intertwined with each other to form a chaotic fist that blasted towards the Celestial Emperor Dharma form. The Celestial Emperor's Dharma form also performed the 4 elephants hitting the sky, and its power was no weaker than Ling Xiao's. The 2 chaotic fists collided in the void, and an extremely blazing light burst out. Just like that, Ling Xiao and the Celestial Emperor's Dharma form engaged in an intense battle. 4 Elephants Heaven Striking Style, 5 Elements Heaven Sealing Style, Skyfall Hammer, Star Plucking Hand, Void Quake, Shifting Secret Technique, Sky Devouring Secret Technique, Thousand Dragons God Slaying Technique, Destruction Sword Dao, Life Sword Dao. All kinds of skills and techniques intertwined, and it was extremely terrifying. However, the Celestial Emperor's Dharma form was another Ling Xiao. Whatever Ling Xiao knew, the Celestial Emperor's Dharma form also knew. After Ling Xiao took out the Sky-Devouring Sword, the Celestial Emperor's Dharma form also took out the Sky-Devouring Sword. Sword Qi intertwined and sword light filled the air, and its power was unparalleled. Ling Xiao was very sure that there was only one Sky-Devouring Sword because the King of Khanate Essences was a unique weapon spirit. However, he felt that the Sky-Devouring Sword in the Celestial Emperor's avatar also had the King of Khanate Essence's weapon spirit. Rumble. The blazing sword light intertwined, but Ling Xiao's expression was calm. He allowed himself to enter the state of thoughtless tranquility, and comprehended the Tao of Tao. He performed the Destruction Sword Dao and slashed towards the Celestial Emperor's Dharma form. The Celestial Emperor's Dharma form's expression was indifferent. The Sky-Devouring Sword buzzed and vibrated, and it emitted a boundless vitality, and slashed at Ling Xiao with the Life Sword Dao. Clang! Sparks flew everywhere, and the light was extremely bright. The Destruction Sword Dao and Life Sword Dao were annihilated at the same time, and the void around them trembled violently. Kill! The battle intent in Ling Xiao's eyes grew stronger and stronger. He did not expect that it would be so difficult to face himself. Ling Xiao used to cultivate the Sky-Devouring Secret skill, and the Ancestral Dragon Secret skill. His physical body was extremely strong, and his recovery speed was also very strong. Therefore he could fight and kill strong opponents. However, when facing the Celestial Emperor's Dharma form, he could feel how strong the Celestial Emperor's Dharma form was. His attacks could not cause any damage to the Celestial Emperor's Dharma form. Even if there was a slight injury, it would be able to recover quickly. Roar. In the sky, Ling Xiao's divine power rose as if a real dragon was roaring. He was shrouded in 9-colored divine light, and he punched at the Celestial Emperor's Dharma form. A total of 108 divine dragons charged towards the Celestial Emperor's Dharma form, carrying with them a terrifying killing intent. Thousand Dragons God Slaying Technique? It's a pity that you haven't mastered it yet. The Celestial Emperor's Dharma form said indifferently. A sharp light flashed in his eyes, and a dragon's roar sounded around him. The terrifying blood of the divine dragons behind him boiled, causing the void to shake violently. 180 divine dragons charged towards Ling Xiao. Rumble. The world shook violently. Countless divine dragons exploded and disappeared. Ling Xiao was sent flying by the Celestial Emperor's Dharma form. What? Ling Xiao's eyes narrowed. He could feel that the power of the Celestial Emperor's Dharma form had increased. It seemed to have reached a certain limit and formed an absolute suppression on him. The blood in his body was surging, and his internal organs were injured. Streams of essence flowed through his meridians. Every tiny particle of his essence flickered with the light of divinity, which was rapidly repairing his damaged body. The celestial emperor's Dharma form stood in the void, and did not even take a step back. Now the warm-up is over. You're really weak now. You don't know that you have treasures, and you don't understand strength. You'll never be able to defeat me. Then you'll be trapped here forever. The celestial emperor's Dharma form's eyes were filled with a strong killing intent. The aura around him was becoming more and more terrifying. You don't know that you have treasures? You don't understand strength? Are you the strongest me? Or are you the strongest me in the future? Chapter 1266. The Four Elephants Sky Striking Style requires one to comprehend its origin in order to unleash its true power. The Heavenly Emperor Celestial Idol didn't reply to Ling Xiao but said coldly, "Boom." The energy and blood behind him churned as the divine light of the four elephants intertwined. The images of the ancestral dragon, the true phoenix, the white tiger and the black tortoise appeared. As he threw a punch at Ling Xiao, it was as if the heavens were shaking. The power of the four divine beasts poured into the Heavenly Emperor Celestial Idol at the same time, giving his punch a mysterious power that could destroy the heavens. This is the perfect four elephants sky striking style. Ling Xiao's body trembled as his eyes were blazing with sharpness. Although he felt an extreme sense of danger, his eyes became brighter and brighter. It turned out that the Great Void Emperor's test wasn't just a simple copy of Ling Xiao's mirror image doppelganger. It was imprinting Ling Xiao's strongest power from the endless space and time. The current Heavenly Emperor Celestial Idol could be said to be the strongest Ling Xiao in the late stage of the Divine Spirit realm. What kind of realm was his strongest power? Ling Xiao had an ambition. He could feel that the Saint realm wasn't his limit. He could even surpass the Great Void Emperor and become a supreme Great Emperor. However, there was a balance involved. With the Great Void Emperor's methods, he couldn't imprint Ling Xiao in the Great Emperor realm. His limit was Ling Xiao in the Great Emperor realm. In other words, the current Heavenly Emperor Celestial Idol was Ling Xiao in the Great Emperor realm with his strength and cultivation suppressed to the late stage of the Divine Spirit realm. Such a Heavenly Emperor Celestial Idol was naturally more terrifying than Ling Xiao's mirror image doppelganger. It even had the power to completely destroy Ling Xiao's original body. However, the more it was like this, the more excited Ling Xiao was. His blood boiled and his battle intent became stronger. To be able to witness the most powerful version of himself, and fight with the most powerful version of himself, was in itself an incomparably fortunate thing. Ling Xiao could even see the perfect four elephants sky striking style, and five elements sky sealing style from the Heavenly Emperor Celestial Idol. He could see the power of the Great Void Emperor Fist, the power of the Sky Devouring Secret Skill, and the Ancestral Dragon Secret Skill. He could even see the path he would take in the future. This was a crisis, but it was also a supreme fortune. However, Ling Xiao had to survive. Rumble. Facing the full power of the Celestial Emperor Dharma form, Ling Xiao also seemed to go berserk. The aura around him surged, and his endless blood boiled. He couldn't stop thinking. He could only rely on his instincts to activate the ancestral dragon's powerful physical body. Then he struck out with the Skyfall hammer. Above the void, there seemed to be a huge divine hammer, like a divine mountain, wrapped in the power of heaven and earth, smashing down on the Celestial Emperor Dharma form. Crack. Golden lightning rose, and the dazzling divine light exploded in an instant. The two of them stood on the continent below. Instantly, the two sacred mountains around them were turned into dust by the tremors. The Celestial Emperor Celestial Body's four elephants striking the heavens had perfectly fused the power of the four secret skills together. It was an eye-opener for Ling Xiao. Although the Skyfall hammer and his own strength were strong, they were still easily penetrated by the four divisions heaven striking style. If he hadn't used a secret teleportation technique to escape at the last moment, he would have been directly hit by this punch. It turns out that the power of the four divisions heaven striking style is even stronger than the Skyfall hammer. Ling Xiao was excited. The Skyfall hammer was the Taishu Emperor's fist. It was very likely that it was a peerless fist technique left behind by the Taishu Emperor. However, Ling Xiao now saw a glimmer of hope. The 4 divisions heaven-striking style would definitely surpass the Skyfall hammer in the future. Ling Xiao had learned to be smart. He kept himself in the state of thoughtless tranquility. He didn't think about how to defeat the enemy. He just let his battle instincts erupt and led him to fight the Celestial Emperor Dharma form. Moreover, he wanted to learn from the battle between the Celestial Emperor Dharma form and shorten the distance between him and the Celestial Emperor Dharma form. Now Ling Xiao didn't think about how to defeat the Celestial Emperor Dharma form. He just hoped to reduce the distance between the two of them. Rumble. The Celestial Emperor Dharma form looked indifferent. It was as if it had expected Ling Xiao to use a secret teleportation technique to escape. It directly struck out with a punch, sealing off his escape route. Dazzling divine light lit up the void. Ling Xiao realized that there was no space for him to escape. He could only use his unparalleled physical strength to block with his fists. Bam! He felt as if his arms had been hit by a giant hammer. They started to go numb. His arms were about to break. His whole body shook violently and he was suddenly sent flying. He directly smashed a mountain in the distance into smithereens. The ground cracked, and blazing lava even spewed out, forming a magnificent scene of a volcanic eruption. Ha 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 again. Ling Xiao suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, but his eyes became brighter and brighter. Every particle in his body seemed to be excited. The blood in his body boiled and surged. The power of the divine dragon bloodline began to erupt, giving him a strong physical body and recovery ability. He closed his eyes and used his heart to feel the power of the 4 secret techniques. He felt the weight of the earth, the softness and density of the water, the speed and destruction of the heavenly wind, the destruction and rebirth of the fire. The power of the 4 laws seemed to converge in his heart, forming a strange balance. Roar! Roar! Dragons roared, tigers roared, phoenixes cried, and turtles cried. The shadows of the 4 divine beasts appeared. They were vivid and lifelike, as if they were really the 4 divine beasts of the ancient times. Ling Xiao instinctively punched at the Celestial Emperor Dharma idol. The chaotic fist print covered the void and quickly suppressed the Celestial Emperor Dharma idol. Ling Xiao felt that his 4 elephants striking the heavens had evolved at this moment. It had some kind of unfathomable power, and it wanted to completely break open the vault of heaven. You can do this? Even the Celestial Emperor Dharma idol was slightly surprised. Ling Xiao's 4 elephants striking the heavens had begun to have some of the charm of his fist. It was beginning to become perfect and powerful. Boom! The Celestial Emperor Dharma idol's eyes flickered. A vast amount of divine power boiled around him, and it turned into mysterious runic lines that absorbed the essence of heaven and earth around him. The aura on his body rose to the extreme, and then he punched at Ling Xiao. Like a giant hammer that reached the heavens, the transparent fist print enveloped the entire sky and contained a power fluctuation that could crush everything. With the support of the rune lines, the Skyfall hammer fist technique seemed to have come alive. Kacha! Ling Xiao and the Celestial Emperor Dharma idol collided again. This time, the blazing divine light lit up the entire vault of heaven. The mountains in a radius of thousands of miles shattered at the same time. The earth sank, and the river flowed backward, forming a huge turbulent lake. Chapter 1267. Nirvana of the True Phoenix. Ling Xiao roared and shot up into the sky at an even faster speed. The mysterious fire of the True Phoenix spread all over his body. His aura began to strengthen at a speed visible to the naked eye, and his life force became more and more majestic. Especially the big hole in his chest. It healed after a few breaths. The true fist intent of the Skyfall hammer? Ha ha ha. Very good. Ling Xiao laughed loudly, and the light in his eyes became even more radiant. In this moment of life and death, his understanding of martial arts also began to increase tenfold, or even 100-fold. This was especially true when he was between life and death. He even saw the terrifying fist intent of the Sky Emperor Dharma form using the Sky Hammer. If not for the fact that the Celestial Emperor's Dharma form was of the same cultivation level as him, if only it was slightly stronger than him, that punch would have killed him instantly. This is my good fortune. I must live on and find my way to the future. Ling Xiao thought to himself. Then, Another 4 elephants striking the sky blasted towards the Celestial Emperor Celestial Appearance. In the battle between Ling Xiao and the Celestial Emperor Celestial Appearance, he constantly corrected the mistakes in his martial arts. Using the Celestial Emperor Celestial Appearance as a reference, his understanding of martial arts improved by leaps and bounds. Rumble. The battle between Ling Xiao and the Celestial Emperor Celestial Appearance became more and more intense. The Celestial Emperor Celestial Appearance's attacks were extremely terrifying. Whether it was the 4 elephants striking the sky, or the Great Void Imperial Fist, the Celestial Emperor Celestial Appearance was able to use all the martial arts that Ling Xiao knew. Moreover, each move was extremely powerful. In the beginning, Ling Xiao was almost suppressed by the Celestial Emperor Celestial Appearance. There was no way for him to compete with the Celestial Emperor Celestial Appearance, and he was constantly injured. If it was not for the strength of the ancestral dragon body, and the nirvana of the true phoenix that allowed him to be reborn continuously, he would have died in the hands of the Celestial Emperor Celestial Appearance. However, in this battle of life and death, Ling Xiao's understanding of martial arts and power increased rapidly. The 4 elephants sky striking style, and the 5 elements sky sealing style were gradually reaching perfection. Ling Xiao was also beginning to understand the true meaning of the Great Void Emperor's fist. Even Dugu Qiubai's Destruction Swordway and Life Swordway were beginning to understand the origin of their powers. A martial artist's cultivation was a process of recognizing and using power. However, there were many martial artists who possessed formidable strength, but ultimately did not know what the source of strength was. In the process of these battles, Ling Xiao also began to organize the martial arts he cultivated, and gradually formed a system that he understood. As the gap between Ling Xiao and Sky Emperor decreased, Ling Xiao started to think about another question. What was Emperor Taishu's intention? Ling Xiao knew that the Great Void Emperor hoped that his successor could defeat him. Then what was the purpose of defeating him? This was a question that Ling Xiao had been thinking about for a long time, but he didn't know the answer. He believed that if he could figure out this point, not only would he be able to pass this stage, it would also be of great significance to the next test. Time here seems to be frozen. The battle between me and the Sky Emperor Dharma form has been going on for so long, but time doesn't seem to have changed. Ling Xiao's eyes sparkled as he thought to himself. You're right. Although the battle between us lasted for almost 10 years, it was only an instant to the outside world. The Celestial Emperor Dharma form seemed to know what Ling Xiao was thinking. Boom. The Celestial Emperor Dharma form attacked Ling Xiao with the 4 elephants sky strike. The chaotic fist print enveloped the entire sky, containing extremely terrifying fluctuations of power. Ling Xiao also threw a punch. The fist print was unparalleled. His 4 elephants sky strike was actually on par with the Celestial Emperor Dharma form. In the end, both of them flew backward at the same time. After such a long battle of life and death, the gap between Ling Xiao and the Celestial Emperor Dharma form had shrunk rapidly. Although Ling Xiao's cultivation level had not increased, his combat strength had reached an extremely terrifying level. Now his casual attack was almost comparable to the full power of his previous attack. Moreover, Ling Xiao began to have a new understanding of power and precepts. Now Ling Xiao needed to consider how to defeat the Celestial Emperor Dharma form. Otherwise, according to Ling Xiao's understanding, if he couldn't defeat the Celestial Emperor Dharma form, he would probably be trapped in this void forever, unable to leave. Boom. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed. Blazing flames seemed to rise around him. That was the sky-devouring divine fire, containing the precepts of fire that could burn all things. It was extremely powerful. Under Ling Xiao's guidance, it instantly turned into a flaming divine dragon, and pounced on the Celestial Emperor Dharma form. Break! The Celestial Emperor Dharma form's expression was very calm. The light in its palm shone brightly as it slammed down on Ling Xiao. It was as if a vast sea of divine power had spread out, containing the precepts of water. This was the power of the Black Tortoise secret skill. In the hands of the Celestial Emperor Dharma form, it had a magical power that could turn something rotten into something magical. Boom. The 2 palms collided, and the void suddenly shook. The endless flames collided with the vast sea of Shenli Dahai. Suddenly, a bright cloud burst out and shrouded the surrounding area. The figures of Ling Xiao and the celestial Emperor Dharma form seemed to have disappeared into the cloud. At this moment, Ling Xiao suddenly closed his eyes. There were mysterious runes in his palm that contained an extremely vast power of precepts. Freeze! He suddenly slammed his palm toward the celestial Emperor Dharma form and roared. Boom! A vast and terrifying power of precepts descended, and the entire world seemed to have stopped at this moment. This was the power of the Sutra of Time, which could stop time and even reverse it. Although Ling Xiao had only cultivated a little of the Sutra of Time, the power of this palm was extremely terrifying. The vast power of time descended, and the clouds in the sky suddenly stopped. Ling Xiao could feel that the celestial Emperor Dharma form had been frozen by his Sutra of Time. Although it might not be frozen for too long, it was enough for Ling Xiao to make his move. The art of reversing fate. The art of reversing fate. Ling Xiao's eyes were filled with a monstrous sharpness. Divine light flashed around his body, and a mysterious and ancient aura erupted from his body. In an instant, he merged with the surrounding heaven and earth. Vaguely, a vast river of time seemed to fly toward the celestial Emperor Dharma form under Ling Xiao's control. He wanted to completely destroy the celestial Emperor Dharma form. Crack! At this moment, the celestial Emperor Dharma form broke free from the control of the Sutra of Time. Seeing Ling Xiao use the art of reversing fate, it also used the art of reversing fate without hesitation. Then, it slammed its palm toward Ling Xiao. The art of reversing fate versus the art of reversing fate. At this moment, not only did Ling Xiao's eyes not show the slightest hint of panic, but it was as if everything was within his calculations. His gaze was calm and deep. Boom! The incomparably terrifying art of reversing fate exploded in an instant. The blazing river of destiny enveloped the entire area. The power of destiny seemed to want to wipe away all traces of life. Unsurprisingly, it also enveloped Ling Xiao and the celestial Emperor Dharma form. Chapter 1268. Rumble. Heaven and earth trembled as the light blazed. The mysterious energy of destiny swept across the void. It contained an incomparably terrifying energy fluctuation, as if it wanted to turn everything into dust. This was the power of the art of reversing fate. After Ling Xiao had broken through to the divine spirit realm, the power of the art of reversing fate had reached an extremely terrifying level. Ling Xiao had not used the art of reversing fate and the art of reversing fate, but he had already guessed that the celestial Emperor Dharma idol might be able to use the art of reversing fate and the art of reversing fate. However, Ling Xiao wanted to use the art of reversing fate to verify a guess in his heart. For this reason, he did not hesitate to risk his life. The third move of the art of reversing fate was to use the power of destiny to communicate with the vast river of fate to attack the opponent's destiny and directly erase it without leaving a trace behind. Everyone's destiny was unique. Although the celestial Emperor Dharma idol could imitate all of Ling Xiao's martial arts cultivation, it was not a real life and did not have a destiny. Without a destiny, the celestial Emperor Dharma idol naturally could not use the true art of reversing fate, or even communicate with the power of the river of fate. Therefore, this was Ling Xiao's trump card. He could see that although the celestial Emperor Dharma idol had used the art of reversing fate, it was just an empty shell. It looked very powerful on the surface, but in reality, it did not have much power. However, the river of fate that Ling Xiao had activated was a real power. Puff! Even though Ling Xiao's cultivation was already at the late stage of the divine spirit realm, he could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood under the backlash of the river of fate. His aura instantly became extremely weak. The celestial Emperor Dharma idol standing opposite him was swept away by the river of fate, as if some kind of mysterious energy fluctuation instantly shattered. The celestial Emperor Dharma idol's body also began to become illusory, but its expression was incomparably calm. That's right. You were able to think of using the art of reversing fate to attack. Although it is a little tricky, it is indeed the only way to defeat me. However, the celestial Emperor Dharma idol's body gradually dissipated, but it still said seriously to Ling Xiao, "You did not defeat me but yourself. There is no trick to defeating yourself, only subduing your heart." I hope that you can understand this in the next test. As soon as the celestial Emperor Dharma idol's voice fell, a strange light flashed in its eyes, and it instantly exploded into a rain of light, disappearing between heaven and earth. Subdue his heart. These 4 words were like a great bell, ringing in Ling Xiao's heart, causing his eyes to burst with an unimaginably mysterious light. As the celestial emperor's celestial form dissipated, the surrounding void began to tremble. It was as if the world was about to be destroyed. The heavens and earth shattered, the mountains and rivers were in chaos, and flames burned the sky. The world in front of Ling Xiao's eyes was like a dream, and it quickly disappeared. It's like a dream, an illusion, a bubble, and a shadow. A bright light flashed in Ling Xiao's eyes. Suddenly, he thought of a line from a Buddhist scripture. Now that he thought about it carefully, there seemed to be a special charm to it. Defeat yourself and subdue your heart. These words seemed to let Ling Xiao see some kind of path. In other words, the celestial emperor's Dharma form is my inner demon. It is formed from my thoughts. That's why it can understand all my martial arts and know all my thoughts. No matter how powerful the great Void Emperor was, he had disappeared for so many years. The power he left behind couldn't have seen through all my secrets, or even blocked the perception of the wordless heavenly book. Was he the one who stirred up my thoughts? Heart force, interesting. Ling Xiao sighed softly in his heart, but his eyes grew brighter. Although he still didn't understand the great Void Emperor's intentions, he already had some understanding of this test. Now he still couldn't feel the presence of the wordless heavenly book, which meant that he was still in the test. I've passed the first test. I wonder what the second test is. Ling Xiao's eyes revealed a strange look. Boom. Ling Xiao took a step forward, and a vast sea of fire seemed to appear in front of him. Large suns soared from it, containing an incomparably scorching power. Even with his incomparably sturdy divine body, he could still feel the terror of the divine sun fire. It could completely incinerate him. 3-legged golden crows flew out from the suns. These were all supreme divine beasts from ancient times. They had the power to control the divine sun fire, and were extremely terrifying. An illusion test? Ling Xiao's eyes flashed. He punched out, and a terrifying fist print blasted towards the 3-legged golden crows. However, it was destroyed by the divine sun fire. Endless flames surged toward him, enveloping him and burning him up. Pain, extreme pain. Ling Xiao could feel that his flesh and blood had already begun to burn, and it emitted a charred smell. The divine sun fire even entered his primordial spirit, and began to incinerate it. The extreme pain seemed to be able to drive people crazy. Ling Xiao's face was extremely pale, but his eyes became brighter and brighter. Just like that, he walked forward step by step with incomparable determination. He didn't stop at all, allowing the divine sun fire to incinerate his body. In the end, he was only left with a golden skeleton. Although it was extremely sturdy, it also began to melt. The immense terror of life and death enveloped him, wanting to sink him into eternal darkness. This is an illusion. You can refine my flesh, ignite my qi, and burn my spirit, but you can't subdue my heart. Ling Xiao said seriously. He walked forward step by step, towards the depths of the sea of fire. The skeleton all over his body finally shattered with a boom. Endless darkness enveloped him, but his faith continued to move forward. Boom. The world of flames in front of him instantly shattered, and a world of extreme cold covered in ice and snow appeared in front of him. Everywhere was pale white. Ling Xiao's body appeared here in one piece, as if he hadn't experienced anything at all. However, the endless cold had already attacked him, as if it wanted to completely freeze his life force. Ling Xiao knew that this was indeed an illusion test, but it was extremely realistic. It was so realistic that Ling Xiao thought that the scene of his body being incinerated by the flames was real, and he even thought that he had died once. If he hadn't restrained himself at all, he probably would have sunk into the endless sea of fire forever, unable to walk out. Or should I say, are these still the manifestations of my thoughts? Buddhism says that there are 5 desires, 6 dusts, and 8 sufferings in human life. The 5 desires are wealth, sex, fame, food, and sleep. The 6 dusts are color, sound, fragrance, taste, touch, and dharma. The 8 sufferings are birth, aging, illness, death, love parting, resentment, unrequited love, and the 5 eens. Everything is formed by my mind. Chapter 1269. The Buddhist sect was the best at subduing one's heart. Humans had essence, energy, and spirit, but they also had the power of the heart. As the saying went, there was nothing beyond the heart. With a thought, 3,000 worlds would be born, and with a thought, 3,000 worlds would be destroyed. The powerful ones could even destroy the heavens with a thought and end the life and death of all living beings. Therefore, in the realm of gods, there were not only the 3 paths of essence, energy, and spirit, but also the path of the heart. The Buddhist sect cultivated the path of the heart. However, it was too difficult to enter the path of the heart. Moreover, the Buddhist sect tested one's fate. Could it be that the Great Void Emperor is a Buddhist sect disciple? Ling Xiao began to have doubts in his heart. His mind was firm. As a person who had lived 2 lives, he had seen through life and death and everything. Therefore, the illusion of the second stage did not make his heart waver at all. He walked through the burning flames, crossed the extremely cold snow mountain, flew through the endless wind, experienced thousands of lightning strikes, and crossed the mountains of swords and rivers. Ling Xiao walked forward tirelessly, and did not take a step back. The creation of heaven and earth and nature were all destroyed under his feet. He defeated himself and then defeated heaven and earth. Ling Xiao couldn't even remember how many times he had died. There was even a hint of weathering between his eyebrows. In the end, everything around him disappeared. A chaos temple appeared in front of him. It was eternal and radiant. Ling Xiao, you're too late. I've already become the successor of the Great Void Emperor. What right do you have to compete with me? Go to hell. Talisman King stood in front of the Chaos Temple. He was extraordinarily handsome and had a terrifying aura. His face was filled with an extremely cold and arrogant smile. A flawless, snow-white jade disc of good fortune floated above his head. It looked complete, ancient, mysterious, and unfathomable. Instantly, it emitted mysterious rays of light, and it seemed as if there were 3,000 big worlds in it, pressing down on Ling Xiao. That terrifying aura was terrifying to the extreme. Ling Xiao did not have the slightest bit of strength to resist. You're just a manifestation of my mind. How dare you stop me? Die. Ling Xiao's eyes were as calm as water. He glanced at Talisman King indifferently. His voice was like thunder that shook the void in all directions. It contained the power of law. Boom. In front of Talisman King's horrified eyes, his body instantly shattered. Even the creation jade disc, Chaos Temple, and this world were all shattered. Everything that has an appearance is illusory. Ling Xiao said indifferently. His voice contained a mysterious force that could split the heavens and earth. Suddenly, he felt as if a mysterious barrier around him had been broken, and the power and law that had been applied to him had also dissipated. Ling Xiao knew that he had passed the second stage. Wang. He was enveloped by a resplendent light, and disappeared from the resplendent space. He sank into eternal darkness. Great Yin Country, Yinjing City. The Minister of Rites, Xiao Yun, had a son at an old age, Xiaoling. The entire Xiao mansion was decorated with lanterns and colored banners, creating a joyous atmosphere. On the same day, the Empress of the Great Yin gave birth to a daughter, who was conferred the title of Princess Yunyang by the Emperor of the Great Yin. Xiao Yun and the Great Yin Emperor had grown up together, and had gone through countless trials and tribulations together. Therefore, on the day Xiaoling was born, the Great Yin Emperor had decreed a marriage and bestowed Princess Yunyang to Xiaoling as his wife. They would only be married when they turned 18 and came of age. Xiaoling was born with a delicate appearance, and could be said to be loved by everyone. He was also extremely intelligent. He entered school at the age of 5, could compose poems at the age of 8, and could write essays at the age of 10. Even his teacher was amazed. Xiaoling became a famous genius in Yinjing City. He took part in the examination at the age of 12, and became the youngest scholar in the history of the Great Yin Country at the age of 18. He rode on a horse and paraded through the streets. He was incomparably glorious, and even married Princess Yunyang. Xiaoling's literary talent was extraordinary, but he didn't have a good impression of martial arts. Therefore, he had been hanging around in the civil service. At the age of 24, he was given a prefecture and became a prefect. Princess Yunyang even gave birth to a son and a daughter for him. The couple was very happy. However, the good times didn't last long. When Xiaoling was 25, Prince Rong of the Great Yan country, Murongkuan, rebelled. He colluded with the Yuanming Empire in the northern plains and killed his way into the Great Yan country. 25 cities of the Great Yan country fell into the hands of the Yuanming Iron Cavalry in a day. The Great Yan Emperor was weak and incompetent. Although he led the army to resist, he wasn't the rebel army's match. The rebel army charged straight into Yanjing City. The Great Yan royal family was slowly massacred. Xiaoyan cursed Prince Rong and refused to surrender. His entire family was executed, and even Princess Yunyang became a slave of the rebel army. At that time, Xiaoling escaped because he went back to his hometown to pay respects to his ancestors. When he learned of what happened in Yanjing City, he vomited blood and fainted in anger. Murongkuan, I, Xiaoling, swear that I'm not a human if I don't exterminate your Murong clan. Xiaoling swore in front of the tombs of his parents, wife and children. In the next 5 years, Xiaoling visited famous mountains and lakes to find a master to practice martial arts. He became the disciple of the Sword Immortal Chongyang spiritual master at Mount Zhongnan and practiced the Sword Immortal technique. He was able to behead someone from 100 feet away. On the day he mastered the technique, Xiaoling bade farewell to Chongyang's spiritual master and went down the mountain to Yanjing City to take revenge. At that moment, Murongkuan had become the emperor of the Great Yan country. Xiaoling killed his way into the depths of the imperial city alone with his sword and killed thousands of soldiers. No matter if it was a martial Dao expert or a general, they were no match for him. The imperial city was stained with blood. Xiaoling stepped on a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood, and killed his way into the imperial city. Just as he was about to kill Murongkuan, something happened that shocked him. Husband, I beg you to spare His Majesty. His Majesty had no choice but to do this. He had his difficulties and he was a good emperor. He treated our children very well, and even gave them the title of king. Moreover, I am pregnant with His Majesty's flesh and blood now. Xiaoling's wife, the former Princess Yunyang, was now the empress of the Great Yan country. She knelt in front of Xiaoling and begged him bitterly. Yunyang, he is the enemy who killed our father. He was the one who slaughtered the Great Yan country's royal family. He was the one who slaughtered the entire Xiao family. You're actually willing to be his empress and bear his child? Xiaoling's body trembled. The immortal sword in his hand trembled violently. His eyes were filled with disbelief and his face was extremely pale. The appearance of Princess Yunyang was the biggest blow to him. I know everything. It was father who killed his entire family. He only wanted revenge. I had no choice. Husband, I've already fallen in love with him. My heart really hurts. Husband, if you want to kill him, kill me. Don't kill His Majesty. He's a good emperor. The Great Yan country needs him. Yunyang knelt in front of Xiaoling and begged him bitterly. Ah, you're actually pleading for him? You're actually pleading for him? Why did I cultivate so hard for so many years? What is it for? Chapter 1270. However, he had to avenge his father's death. In the end, he ignored Princess Yunyang's pleas and killed Murongkuan. He still remembered that before he left, Princess Yunyang's heart was like dead ashes. She looked at him with eyes full of hatred. That hatred made him feel miserable, but there was nothing he could do. In the end, Xiaoling left. That year he was 30 years old. From then on, Xiaoling did not step into the mortal world. He followed Chongyang Zhenren to cultivate and seek transcendence. However, Princess Yunyang was still hidden in his heart, and even became his inner demon. Finally, when he reached 100 years old, he, who had been called an old immortal by the Great Yan Kingdom, was ready to ascend. However, because of Princess Yunyang's inner demon, he was about to die under the heavenly tribulation. Who am I? Who am I? Before he died, Xiaoling roared at the sky, his voice shaking the heavens. I am Ling Xiao. Xiaoling's eyes had a trace of confusion. Then, they became clear and sharp like a sword, piercing through the heavens. Boom! The world in front of him was instantly destroyed. As he was killed by the heavenly tribulation, the faces of Princess Yunyang, Murong Kuan, Xiao Yun, and the others flashed in front of him one by one before finally returning to silence and eternal darkness. Is this a reincarnation? Ling Xiao realized that he was still himself. He was still surrounded by a vast chaotic void. However, he seemed to have experienced a reincarnation. He had experienced the life of the man named Xiaoling. The first half of his life was glorious, and the second half was miserable. All the love and hatred in the mortal world were just fleeting clouds in the end. Ling Xiao could feel that something in his heart had broken out of the seal. Whoosh! Before Ling Xiao could savor it, he was once again enveloped by a resplendent light, plunging into an unfamiliar world. Another reincarnation. In this life he became a general. He was an orphan. His family was poor since he was young. He lived by herding cows for the landlord. Many people in the village bullied him, mocked him, and even stole his food and let him starve. By chance, he obtained a secret manual of a divine martial art. He cultivated a powerful martial art and entered the army. He started out as a pawn and experienced hundreds of battles. He continued to grow and finally made illustrious military achievements and became a great general. After becoming a great general, he returned to his hometown in glory. Seeing the villagers who had bullied him kneeling at his feet and trembling, he was incomparably satisfied and even more ambitious. Thus, he took control of the military, nurtured his subordinates, and rejected those who disobeyed him. In the end, he even took control of the court and killed all those who disobeyed him. Even the little emperor had become his puppet and could only be manipulated by him. During this period, many people wanted to assassinate him, but they were either killed by his guards or died under his powerful martial arts. His ambition grew stronger and stronger, and in the end he deposed the little emperor and became the emperor himself. However, because he didn't understand politics and only knew how to indulge in extravagant pleasures, he eventually made the heavens angry and the people resentful. The world's volunteer army gathered and 36 rebellious kings killed their way into the capital. His army was defeated like a landslide, and his people betrayed him. In the end, he could only commit suicide. Before he died, he burned the bustling city to the ground. Amidst the endless flames, he suddenly remembered his identity and awakened his innate intelligence. I am Ling Xiao. His gaze became as hard as iron. Along with the destruction of the capital, this vast world was also destroyed. Just like that, Ling Xiao continued to reincarnate and experience one life after another. In his third life, he was the leader of a sect. He led the sect to become stronger and stronger, and finally became the ruler of the world. However, he died in the hands of his disciple. In his fourth life, he became an emperor. He worked hard and led the country to prosperity, but in the end, he died in the hands of his son. It was because he had lived for too long, and the crown prince was not satisfied with just being the crown prince. In his fifth life, he became a chivalrous person. He lived a carefree life, helped the weak, and saw injustice on the road. His life was very exciting, but in the end he died in the hands of an orphan he had helped because that orphan wanted to inherit his martial arts. In his sixth life he became a thief, in his seventh life, he became a butcher. In his eighth life, he was a teacher who had thousands of students. In his ninth life, he was a strategist who planned strategies from thousands of miles away. Just like that, Ling Xiao went through reincarnation after reincarnation. He experienced all kinds of lives, joys and sorrows, love and hate, sorrow, and all kinds of desires and sufferings. His heart also became more and more determined. Everything was possible, and it was like a dream. Just like that, Ling Xiao went through 100 reincarnations. The mysterious seed in his heart also began to germinate and gradually grow. A mysterious power began to awaken. After the 100th reincarnation cycle, when Ling Xiao reincarnated once more, he immediately awakened his innate wisdom and personally shattered that piece of heaven and earth. Boom! In his heart, the mysterious power was vast and boundless. Endless light rose as if it was splitting the world apart, forming an extremely illusory and mysterious world. In that world, countless mysterious scenes appeared. All the living beings, mountains, rivers, and heaven and earth that Ling Xiao reincarnated all appeared in that mysterious world. And with the change of his mind, that world also began to be reincarnated and destroyed. In an instant, the world changed, and in an instant, millions of years passed. Moreover, Ling Xiao could feel that this illusory world and the small world in his body had formed some kind of mysterious balance. It was like the two sides of yin and yang, causing the small world in his body to actually start to grow. Birth of the heart realm. A thunderous voice exploded in Ling Xiao's ears. Then all the scenes around him disappeared. Endless chaotic light flickered, and an eternal and ancient chaotic temple appeared in front of him. Its entire body emitted a bronze light. It was mysterious and unfathomable, as if it was the eternal and indestructible ruler of the chaos. Heart realm. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed. These two words were very unfamiliar. He had never heard of them before, but he seemed to be able to understand the meaning behind them. The first stage, defeat yourself. The second stage, defeat the world. The third stage, defeat reincarnation. And the purpose of these three stages was to subdue one's heart and open the heart realm. Ling Xiao's heart was enlightened as he slowly walked towards the Chaos Temple in front of him. The Chaos Temple contained an aura and energy fluctuation that Ling Xiao's heart realm was filled with anticipation. Could that be the inheritance of the Great Void Emperor? Ling Xiao was slightly excited. The door of the Chaos Temple was tightly shut. It must be because Talisman King had not passed the test, and he was the first person to pass the test. In other words, the inheritance of the Great Void Emperor was his. Chapter 1271. Rumble. The Chaos Divine Palace opened with a loud bang, and a bright divine light gushed out. It contained an incomparably pure energy that rushed towards Ling Xiao. It was as if it had been accumulating divine power for thousands of years. It was boundless and unparalleled. Ling Xiao's cultivation had already reached the peak of the late divine spirit realm. At this moment, he had undoubtedly broken through to the complete divine spirit realm. The divine power in his body was boundless and unparalleled. There were all kinds of mysterious power of laws flickering in the small world, filling his entire body with great power. Ling Xiao's eyes shone brightly. He took a deep breath and walked into the Chaos Divine Palace. Buzz. As soon as Ling Xiao entered the Chaos Divine Hall, there was a flash of light before his eyes. An old man in white robes with white hair and a beard appeared. He seemed benevolent and sage-like. His eyes were deep and distant. "Young master, you're finally here." An old and joyful voice sounded. The white-robed old man looked at Ling Xiao and smiled faintly. "Young master? When did I become your young master? Who are you?" Ling Xiao's eyes shone brightly as he looked at the white-robed old man in front of him and asked. He could see that although the white-robed old man in front of him did not have a physical body, and was more like an apparition of a weapon spirit, Ling Xiao could feel an extremely powerful threat from him. The white-robed old man's strength was unfathomable and extremely terrifying. Ling Xiao's heart skipped a beat. Although he had some guesses, he still asked directly. "Since you were able to pass the 3 stages of the heart-tempering stage, subdue your heart and open your heart realm, you naturally became my old master's disciple, and also my young master. You can call me Su. I'm the apparition spirit of this Great Void Temple, and also the world spirit of the Great Void Realm." The white-robed old man smiled faintly. "The apparition spirit of the Great Void Temple? This is the Great Void Temple? Is the Great Void Emperor still alive?" Ling Xiao looked at the white-robed old man in front of him and asked cautiously. "Young master, I know you have a lot of doubts. However, you can imprint your primordial spirit into this Great Void Pearl, and you'll understand everything," the white-robed old man said as he pointed at a bright ball in front of Ling Xiao. The Great Void Pearl emitted a 9-colored divine light. It looked mysterious and unfathomable. It emitted a vast and majestic power of laws. A gleam of light flashed through Ling Xiao's eyes. He did not sense any malice from the white-robed old man. Furthermore, with the white-robed old man's cultivation, Ling Xiao would not be able to resist if he wanted to harm him. Therefore, he only thought for a moment before imprinting a trace of his primordial spirit on the Void Pearl. Rumble. Ling Xiao's primordial spirit trembled slightly, and a majestic torrent of information instantly gushed into his sea of consciousness. Ling Xiao felt that not only did the information flow into his primordial spirit, but it also directly integrated into his heart realm. It also established a mysterious connection between his heart realm and the Great Void Temple. After a long while, Ling Xiao finally opened his eyes, revealing a trace of amazement. So that's how it is. Ling Xiao muttered to himself. It was only now that he realized that he was currently in the origin sea of the entire Void Realm. The Great Void Temple was the core of the origin sea. It could even be said that the entire Void Realm was a treasure. The Great Void Emperor cultivated the Heart Talisman way. The entire Great Void Realm was his heart realm. He had also refined it into a treasure, which was the Great Void Temple. When the Great Void Temple was at its peak, it was actually an extreme Tao Emperor weapon. It contained the Great Emperor's Tao and was extremely terrifying. However, the Great Void Temple was greatly damaged in the Battle of Emperor's Fall. It was no longer at its peak. Otherwise, the Void Realm would not have remained in this void. As long as the Great Void Temple kept the entire Void Realm, no one would be able to find it. Before the Great Void Emperor disappeared, he left behind the Great Void Temple and set up the 3 stages of the heart tempering. Only by passing the 3 stages of the heart tempering and opening the heart realm would one be considered to have passed his test and be able to inherit the Great Void Temple. In other words, Ling Xiao was now the master of the Great Void Temple and the entire Void Realm. The void in front of him was the weapon spirit of the Great Void Temple. However, Ling Xiao felt that although his heart realm had established a connection with the Great Void Temple, it was only superficial. Although he knew a lot of information, he had no way of controlling the Great Void Temple. Young master, the old master has too many enemies. Many people have their eyes on the Void Realm, wanting to obtain the old master's inheritance. Therefore, your current cultivation is too weak to control the Great Void Temple. You will only be able to completely refine the Great Void Temple after you cultivate the Heart Talisman scripture to the 6th level. Void looked at Ling Xiao and smiled. A scroll of golden scripture appeared in his hand. It was ancient and mysterious, containing a mysterious power. Ling Xiao felt that his heart realm was trembling slightly, sending out some kind of fluctuation of desire. The Heart Talisman scripture? Ling Xiao's body trembled, and a trace of excitement appeared in his eyes. The Great Void Emperor was a peerless almighty, who had one foot in the supreme Great Emperor realm. The Heart Talisman scripture that he left behind was probably not much weaker than the legendary Emperor scriptures. It was far superior to those saint arts. Most importantly, after passing the 3 trials of the heart realm, Ling Xiao also understood that the Great Void Emperor walked the path of Tao through the heart. This could be seen from the fact that he opened the heart realm. Young master, the Great Void Temple has many mysterious aspects. Unfortunately, you have yet to fully control the Great Void Temple, so you can't use many of the inheritance treasures left behind by the old master. However, there is one place that you can use now. Void smiled and said. He pointed at the Great Void Pearl, and suddenly, dozens of bright lights appeared in front of Ling Xiao. They were labeled as the Elixir Hall, Weapon Hall, Talisman Hall, Formation Hall, Killing Hall, Life Hall. The Elixir Hall can refine elixirs, the Weapon Hall can refine weapons, the Talisman Hall can make talismans, the Formation Hall can set up formations, the Killing Hall can kill to train your combat strength, and the Life Hall can comprehend the origin of life. However, you can only choose to open one hall now. Then you can cultivate the Heart Talisman scripture. Every time you break through to the 6th level, you can open one hall. When you break through to the 6th level and completely refine the Great Void Temple, you can open all the divine halls. Void pointed at the mysterious palaces in front of him and introduced them to Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao took a closer look and was instantly dazzled. He was amazed. Just like the Elixir Hall. As long as Ling Xiao could find enough spiritual herbs and elixir recipes, he could use the Heart Talisman scripture to refine elixirs. It could be said that the success rate would be 100%. Moreover, the time needed to refine elixirs would be greatly reduced. However, Ling Xiao could only open one hall, which made him feel that it was a pity. There were many divine halls that made him drool. Chapter 1272. Ling Xiao suddenly thought of a problem. He looked at Su and asked, Uncle Su, what's my current limit of authority? If I can't control the Great Void Temple, you should be able to, right? Your current limit of authority is to communicate with the Great Void Temple through your mind realm. You can enter the Great Void Temple at any time. However, I advise you not to enter the Great Void Temple in front of Sage State experts. Otherwise, they will easily find the Great Void Temple's coordinates. With the Great Void Temple's current state, it won't be able to defend against Sage State experts. Su looked at Ling Xiao seriously and said, As for me, I'm the weapon spirit of the Great Void Temple. Although I can temporarily control the Great Void Temple, it will consume my origin energy. Moreover, I won't be able to control it for long. Ling Xiao nodded his head. Although he couldn't enter the Great Void Holy Hall in front of a Sage Realm expert, the Great Void Holy Hall would be another way to save his life if he encountered a Divine King Realm expert. Although Ling Xiao was a little disappointed, he was still very satisfied. Uncle Su, is Talisman King still participating in the 3 heart refining tests? What will happen if he passes the tests? Ling Xiao asked Su. Talisman King? He's quite talented, but unfortunately he didn't understand the meaning of subduing his heart. That's why he's been stuck in the first test. Now that the 3 heart refining tests are over, I can let him out. Uncle Su pointed forward. Instantly, a bright light mirror appeared in front of Ling Xiao. It showed Talisman King fighting a person who looked exactly like him in a mysterious world. Ling Xiao heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed like Talisman King would need a long time to pass the first test. We can ignore Talisman King for now. However, the 3 sages' avatars have been killed. I'm afraid they'll send experts here soon. Uncle Su, do you have any ideas? Ling Xiao's eyes revealed a hint of worry. With the mysterious power of the sages, it would be easy for them to find out what happened in the Void Realm. When that happened, the Great Void Temple would be exposed to them. Don't worry. You're now the master of the Great Void Temple. The Void Realm is no longer like before where anyone can enter and exit. You're talking about those 3 little guys, right? The cultivation of a sage to be was indeed extraordinary. However, they were unable to enter the Great Void Temple. However, in order to avoid alerting the enemy, I will teleport the Great Void Temple into the chaotic void after your trial. By then, no one will be able to enter the Great Void Temple again. Su said slowly. He pointed his finger, and the scene in front of Ling Xiao changed. An old man in black armor, a beautiful woman in a fluttering white dress, and a man in azure robes all descended in the ancient city of the Great Void. Tong Yuan and the other deans stood before them respectfully as they spoke. Half-saint expert? However, he couldn't be careless about this matter. Fortunately, I hid my identity, so they can't trace it back to me. Right now, I need to quickly return to the trial grounds. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed as he muttered to himself. For the clones of the 3 sages to be destroyed, this was something that the 3 major forces could not tolerate. They would definitely send down powerful experts to investigate. Ling Xiao had to erase all his suspicions. Otherwise, he would not be able to fight against the sages. There's also the Creation Jade Disc. It's one of the 10 great chaos treasures. However, it was severely damaged in the Battle of Emperor's Fall. You still need to put in all your effort to recover it. If you can restore the Creation Jade Disc, you'll be able to protect yourself in the God Realm with the help of the Great Void Temple. Young Master, you've obtained Master's inheritance and also inherited his karma. Once your identity is exposed, your enemies will not let you go. You must quickly become stronger. Void's hand glowed. Immediately, Ling Xiao's Jade Plate of Fortune and Talisman King's Jade Plate of Fortune appeared before him. They fused together and turned into a resplendent full moon. It was pure white, flawless and mysterious. Uncle Su, what's the use of the Creation Jade Disc? Ling Xiao took the Good Fortune Jade Disc and asked Uncle Su curiously. The Creation Jade Disc is a divine item of heaven and earth. It contains 3,000 great daos. Although it's not very useful to you now, as you gradually perfect it, you'll discover how powerful it is. Uncle Su smiled and kept Ling Xiao in suspense. All right then. Uncle Su, I'm going to leave the Great Void Temple to prevent the 3 sage-to-be experts from suspecting me. Ling Xiao nodded. All right. Young master, what should we do with Talisman King? Uncle Su asked Ling Xiao. Let's trap him in the 3 cultivation stages for now. I'll see if I can subdue him in the future. Ling Xiao said after thinking for a while. All right. Uncle Su nodded. Ling Xiao bade farewell to Uncle Su and left the Great Void Temple. He then returned to Xian Kuan's small world and quietly returned to the trial grounds. Phew. I'm finally back. Ling Xiao's eyes shone brightly. He looked at the vast land around him and sighed softly. He had reaped a huge harvest this time. He had obtained a supreme creation that would make even the sages go crazy. The Great Void Emperor's inheritance had finally fallen into his hands. As long as he cultivated the Great Void Talisman scripture to the 6th level, he would be able to completely inherit the Great Void Emperor's inheritance. Now I have to keep a low profile and strive to obtain enough points to wait for the Great Void trial grounds to end. Ling Xiao thought in his heart. Although his cultivation was too low and basically no one would suspect him, the destruction of the clones of the 3 saints was enough for the 3 major forces to take this matter seriously. Even if they were to suspect the participants of the trial, it would not be too much of a stretch. Furthermore, to prevent being discovered, Ling Xiao did not go through the exit of the Realm Heart Lake. Instead, he teleported to a desolate mountain range. Back then, the Xiankuan sage had only said, "Outsider scram," and had swept Jianxie, Lu Wenqing, Xiongba and Chengting out of the secret realm. Ling Xiao could also deny it. Furthermore, the Xiankuan sword and the 9 transformations of dragon and snake were both in the wordless heavenly book. No one would think that he had obtained the Xuanwu sage's inheritance. Even if Lu Wenqing, Jianxie and Xiongba suspected him, it would be useless. After Ling Xiao had thought everything through and felt that there were no loopholes, he prepared to leave. Rumble. At this moment, an ancient and majestic voice rang in the ears of every participant. There are only 3 days left before the Great Void Trial Grounds ends. Chapter 1273. I have to hurry up. I don't have enough points now. However, the top 10 fellows on the scoreboard are all rich. It's definitely the right choice to rob them. Those 10 drops of holy liquid are good stuff. It should be enough for me to break through to the true God realm. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed as he thought to himself. He didn't expect to stay in the tempering heart stage for so long. However, after careful calculation, it shouldn't have been that long. After all, he had reincarnated 100 times, but not much time had passed in the real world. However, he didn't know if the 3 half-sages had noticed anything amiss in these 10 months. Ling Xiao took out the Great Void token, and the scoreboard appeared in front of him. First place, Ji Lingyang, 1,613,200 points. Second place, Xiongba, 1,458,000 points. Third place, Jianxie, 1,449,100 points. Fifth place, Chengting, 1,423,500 points. Sixth place, Chengkuan, 1,421,100 points. Fourth place, Wang Lujun, 148,500 points. Seventh place, Lu Wenqing, 1,470,000 points. Eighth place, Yi Liangchen, 1,397,100 points. Ninth place, Fengye, 1,391,000 points. 10th place, Lu Yan, 139,580 points. When Ling Xiao saw the points of the top 10 on the scoreboard, he couldn't help but widen his eyes. It was fine that Ji Lingyang had surpassed Xiongba, but Ling Xiao wasn't too surprised. What surprised him was that Yi Liangchen and Fengye were actually on the scoreboard. Where did these 2 fellows get so many points? Ling Xiao thought of Yi Liangchen's character. Could it be that this fellow stole them? However, there were only 3 days left until the end of the Great Void Trial. It was probably the last crazy moment. Yi Liangchen and Fengye were in danger. These 2 fellows are really troublesome. Wang Lujun and Chengting should be by their side. I hope they're fine. Ling Xiao laughed bitterly and instantly soared into the sky. He sensed Yi Liangchen and Fengye's location and flew towards them at an extremely fast speed. Great Void Ancient City. Lords, the Great Void Trial is about to end. The overbearing conqueror was now standing respectfully in front of the three half-saints as he spoke in a low voice. In front of them were the Thunder King, Lei Qianjue, Jing Xian, and the Heavenly Strategy King. All the Talisman human experts have been exterminated. However, the Talisman King and the golden-armored youth who are said to have entered the Land of Legacy still haven't appeared. Lei Qianjue sighed as he looked at Jing Xian and the King of Heavenly Strategies as if he didn't see the conqueror and the others. I'm sure of it. If that person's inheritance appeared, it would definitely fall into the hands of the Talisman King and the golden-armored young man. Talisman King's identity can be confirmed, but who is that young man in golden armor? Jing Xian said slowly. I don't know. The identity of the young man in golden armor is very mysterious. No one knows his origin. His combat strength is extremely strong, his physical body is unparalleled, and he has a flawless holy treasure in his hand. Moreover, he seems to know the Great Void Emperor Fist. Other than that, there is no other information. The King of Heavenly Strategies sighed softly. The three of them came to the Great Void Realm under the orders of the three great ancestors. They had killed all the Talisman humans and captured the human experts who had participated in the battle that day. They tortured and interrogated them. In the end, all the clues pointed to the Talisman King and the young man in golden armor. However, even Bai Susu did not know the identity of the young man in golden armor. In the past few months, the three of them had almost turned the entire Great Void Realm upside down, but they still could not find the whereabouts of the young man in golden armor and the Talisman King. If the Talisman King and the young man in golden armor have really obtained that person's inheritance, I'm afraid they won't continue to stay in the Great Void Realm. This matter is no longer up to us to decide. Let's report this to the great ancestors. The King of Heavenly Strategies said with a bitter smile. Lei Qianjue and Jing Xian looked at each other. Although they were unwilling, there was nothing they could do. Tong Yuan and the other deans looked at the three lords cautiously. They did not dare to say a word. I'll leave the matter of the Great Void trial to the five of you. Lei Qianjue waved his hand absent-mindedly. Tong Yuan and the other deans immediately bowed respectfully and left. Fellow cultivators, do you want to return to your sects and report this to the great ancestors? Lei Qianjue's eyes flashed as he asked slowly. There's no hurry. Since we're already here, let's see if there are any geniuses in the Great Void trial. Perhaps we can directly recruit them into our sects without going through the 5 academies. The King of Heavenly Strategies said with a smile. That's right. I also want to stay and see the results of the Great Void trial. The Great Void Realm said coldly. All right then. However, I'm afraid that it will be difficult to see through their talents and paths, since they are merely at the Divine Spirit Realm and True Immortal Realm. Lei Qianjue said. There were only 3 days left until the Great Void trial. In these 3 days, almost everyone went crazy because most of the talisman beasts and talisman humans had been killed. At this time, many experts had their eyes on the experts on the scoreboard. As long as they could rob one of the top 10 experts on the scoreboard, they could immediately replace him. At that time, even if they entered the 5 academies, their status would be different. Although everyone knew that the top 10 experts on the scoreboard, and even the top 100 experts on the scoreboard were all geniuses with unparalleled strength, and the weakest among them was at the True Immortal Realm, if they could gather all the experts together, they might be able to defeat one of the geniuses and steal his points. Therefore, the Great Void Secret Realm, which was originally peaceful, turned completely crazy in the last 3 days. Traces of the Trial Takers battles could be seen everywhere. Everyone was going crazy for the points. However, the casualties were not high. After all, everyone had the Great Void token. Even if they could not defeat their opponents, they could still crush the Great Void token and escape. However, if he really chose to crush the Great Void token, he would really be eliminated. Ling Xiao flew all the way and concealed his aura. He headed toward Yi Liangchen and Feng Ye's location, and saw many figures of the Trial Takers fighting. Right now, Ling Xiao only wanted to find Yi Liangchen and Feng Ye first. Therefore, he was too lazy to meet them face to face. He only used his extreme speed to travel. Even if someone discovered him and wanted to plot against him, he would still shake them off. Soon, Ling Xiao was already close to Yi Liangchen and Feng Ye's location. In front of him was a dense valley. Ancient trees towered into the sky and old vines surrounded them. Sunlight shone through the leaves, making it look extremely serene. Chapter 1274. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed. He concealed his aura and quickly sneaked into the valley. In the valley, Yi Liangchen, Feng Ye, Cheng Ting and Wang Lujun stood side by side. They were surrounded by a group of people with powerful auras. The person leading them was the Peach Blossom Prince, Lu Wenqing. Goddess Wuxia, Goddess Lingbo, I advise you not to get involved in this mess. Quickly hand over Yi Liangchen and Feng Ye. Otherwise, don't blame me for killing you. Lu Wenqing's eyes were gloomy as he stared at Yi Liangchen and the other three. At this moment, his cultivation had already reached the late stage of the true god realm. His body emitted a powerful divine power fluctuation, and the dozen or so figures around him were all true god realm experts. Everyone's eyes were filled with passion and greed. The four people in front of them were all in the top 10 of the scoreboard. Although Goddess Lingbo, Wang Lujun, and Goddess Wuxia, Cheng Ting, were not weak, they were only in the middle true god realm. Yi Liangchen and Feng Ye, who were only in the middle divine spirit realm, had more than 1,000,000 points. This caused many people to be jealous. In their eyes, Yap Liangchen and Feng Ye were moving points. As long as they could kill these two people and get their points, they would be able to soar into the sky and enter the top 10 of the leaderboard. Lu Wenqing, I advise you not to make a mistake. We will protect Yi Liangchen and Feng Ye. Wang Liujuan's eyes revealed a trace of coldness. She held a sky-blue ancient sword in her hand. Sword chi swept out and protected Yi Liangchen and Feng Ye in the middle. Cheng Ting held a bow and arrow in her hand. The aura around her was extremely sharp. Although she had a charming smile on her face, her eyes were extremely cold. Just now, there were 3 great true god realm powerhouses who died under her bow and arrows. Everyone looked at her with fear in their eyes. If it wasn't for Wang Lujun and Cheng Ting's protection, they would have captured Yi Liangchen and Feng Ye. Sisters, I have implicated you. Feng Ye's eyes were filled with guilt. Yi Liangchen sneered and said, Little Ye, don't be sad. We don't know who will be the winner this time. Lu Wenqing, I will give you a chance. Take your men and scram, or you'll regret it later. I regret it. Ha ha ha. What a joke. Could it be that you think that by relying on Fairy Wuxia and Fairy Lingbo, you will be safe and sound? Let me tell you, I've already notified His Highness Ji Lingyang. When he arrives, all of you will die. Lu Wenqing's eyes were filled with cold killing intent. He had been suppressing the anger in his heart. He had racked his brains to plan to obtain the Black Tortoise Sage's inheritance, but he had failed at the last moment. He hated Jianxie, Xiongba, Cheng Ting and that guy called Long Outyin to the extreme. He even guessed that the Black Tortoise Sage's inheritance had fallen into their hands. However, he did not dare to attack Jianxie and Xiongba, so he could only vent his anger on Cheng Ting and Long Outyin. Yi Liangchen and Feng Ye had a very close relationship with Long Outyin. In addition, these two people's cultivation bases were very low, but no one knew where they got so many points from. Naturally, they became a thorn in Lu Wenqing's side. Ji Lingyang. When they heard this name, Wang Lujun and Cheng Ting's eyes changed slightly. Although many people said that Xiongba was the strongest person in the group, Wang Lujun and Cheng Ting knew that the strongest person in this great void trial should be Ji Lingyang. Ji Lingyang was the prince of the great Zhou Empire. Legend had it that he had the saint physique of Zhou Tian, and his strength was unparalleled. Even the arrogant Xiongba had to bow down in front of Ji Lingyang. From the current rankings, it could be seen that Ji Lingyang was worthy of being the first person. Ji Lingyang, Lu Wenqing and many other experts were together. They were really in danger. Yi Liangchen, Little Ye, I'll block them with Cheng Ting later. You two leave first. Wang Lujun secretly transmitted her voice to Yi Liangchen and Feng Ye. Sisters, why would we need to escape when dealing with these useless people? How dare you snatch my things? Are you tired of living? Yi Liangchen asked. Yi Liangchen sneered. He actually walked out of Cheng Ting and Wang Liujuan's protection area and walked towards the group with a proud face. Yi Liangchen, come back quickly. Wang Lujun suddenly became anxious. This guy was too troublesome. The eyes of the two true God realm experts instantly lit up. Immediately, the divine power around their bodies rose, and they suddenly reached out to grab Yi Liangchen. Yi Liangchen's cultivation was only in the middle stage of the divine spirit realm. In their opinion, Yi Liangchen dared to walk out. He was simply courting death. You two pieces of trash, how dare you attack the great Yi Liangchen? The heavens will not let you go. Yi Liangchen shouted, but he was very slippery. Light flashed around his body, and he instantly dodged the attacks of the two true God realm experts. Whoosh! At the same time, the two true God realm experts stepped on a huge rock. Immediately, the huge rock exploded, and a golden flame flew out from it, instantly enveloping the two of them. Ah! The two true God realm experts instantly began to burn fiercely, and they let out incomparably miserable cries. Sun God Fire? Someone exclaimed. Immediately, everyone was so frightened that they hurriedly retreated. That was the Sun God Fire. How could it appear in a huge rock? Wasn't this too much of a coincidence? Ling Xiao, who was hiding in the dark, originally wanted to attack. However, when he saw this scene, the corner of his mouth couldn't help but twitch. This Yi Liangchen was simply the son of the heavens. His luck was too good, wasn't it? Catch him. Although the two true God realm experts were severely injured by the Sun God Fire, they were still saved by Lu Wenqing's divine water in the end. Moreover, the others all rushed towards Yi Liangchen. Little sister, save me. These pieces of trash actually want to attack the great Yi Liangchen. Quickly shoot them to death. Yi Liangchen shouted loudly. Then he suddenly turned around and hugged Cheng Ting's thighs. His hands even started to touch Cheng Ting's thighs. Cheng Ting's body stiffened. She was so angry that she gritted her teeth. She couldn't wait to kill this bastard Yi Liangchen. However, she had to save him. Instantly, 9 long arrows were shot at the true God realm experts. Shoot these bastards to death. Yi Liangchen pointed at the crowd and shouted loudly. Whoosh! Whoosh! In the end, the experts who were rushing towards Yi Liangchen didn't know what happened. Suddenly, their bodies became sluggish, and they couldn't help but stop on the spot. At that moment, the 9 long arrows pierced through the void and shot into the 9 true God realm experts' foreheads. Cheng Ting was stunned. Wang Lujun was stunned. Chapter 1275. Isn't this too much of a coincidence? Everyone could see that Cheng Ting barely managed to shoot out 9 arrows. At most, she could only cause some injuries. She might not even be able to kill a true God realm expert. Who would have thought that her 9 arrows could actually kill 9 true God realm experts? Cheng Ting was also shocked by her own battle results. She couldn't even believe her own eyes. This was actually done by me? You are all trash. How dare you attack the great Yi Liangchen? Even the heavens won't let you off. If you don't want to die, kneel down and surrender. Yi Liangchen instantly stood up proudly. He looked at Lu Wenqing and the others and said proudly. After this incident, Lu Wenqing's side only had 8 true God realm experts left. They instantly lost more than half of their combat power. Bastard! Kill him for me. Lu Wenqing was about to go crazy. He pointed at Yi Liangchen and roared loudly. Rumble! The remaining 8 true God realm experts all took action. Divine power rose around their bodies. Powerful auras intertwined as they charged towards Yi Liangchen. Cheng Ting and Wang Liujuan's eyes flashed with killing intent. They charged towards the 8 true God realm experts at the same time. They also saw the opportunity. As long as they quickly killed the 8 true God realm experts, Lu Wenqing alone wouldn't be able to stop them from escaping. You are courting death. Lu Wenqing's eyes were extremely sharp. His late true God realm cultivation was completely unleashed. The long sword in his hand slashed across the sky. Pink divine light rose. It contained an aura that could confuse one's soul. It was as though it could confuse one's mind. Peach Blossom Divine Skill. Lu Wenqing used the Peach Blossom Divine Skill to stop Cheng Ting and Wang Lujun. He wanted to create an opportunity for them to kill Yi Liangchen and Fengya. I said there must be wind. Yi Liangchen suddenly stood up. He pointed one hand to the sky and the other to the ground. His eyes were mysterious. It was as though there was a strange light that pierced through the void. It made it seem as though there were two pupils in his eyes. The sun and the moon were in the sky. Rumble. Heaven and earth began to tremble. Endless gales flickered, wreaking havoc in all directions. It was like the wailing of ghosts and howling of wolves, causing one's heart to tremble. And the peach blossom divine technique that Lu Wenqing executed, that pink enchanting divine light, actually changed direction with a sweep of the gale, directly enveloping those 8 great true God realm powerhouses. Lu Wenqing's peach blossom divine skill contained an extremely strong power that could confuse people's minds. The 8 great true God realm experts were instantly dazzled, and they paused in the void for a moment. Good chance. Cheng Ting's eyes lit up. Immediately 3 consecutive arrows shot out, directly piercing through the glabella of the 3 great true God realm powerhouses, killing them directly. While the sword Qi in Wang Liujuan's hand sword, the sword light was swift to the extreme, similarly piercing through the throats of the 3 great true God realm powerhouses. And those 2 true God realm powerhouses in the end were actually swept up by the endless gale, directly swept up high into the sky, disappearing without a trace. What? Lu Wenqing was dumbfounded. At this moment, no matter how stupid he was, he finally understood that all of this was caused by Yi Liangchen. If the first time 2 great true God realm experts were severely injured by the sun god fire, and the second time 9 great true God realm experts were killed by the 9 arrows, then this time, that bastard summoned the heavenly wind, killed 6 of them, and even blew away 2 of them. What was going on? This guy was too evil. Lu Wenqing's gaze towards Yi Liangchen revealed an extremely terrified expression. Yi Liangchen smiled at him and instantly he felt a chill down his spine. Wang Lujun and Cheng Ting's hearts were also incomparably shocked. It was as if it was the first time they had met Yi Liangchen. Previously, they were not together with Yi Liangchen and Fengya. In the end, in just a few months, Yi Liangchen and Fengya forcefully obtained a large number of points, directly rushing to the top 10 of the scoreboard. Previously, they had some doubts, but after seeing the power that Yi Liangchen had caused, they instantly had no more doubts. This Yi Liangchen was simply cheating. He didn't even need to do anything. The people who went against him all died by themselves. Was this guy a jinx or was he the son of God? However, their minds were incomparably resolute. Now that Lu Wenqing's subordinates were all dead, it was a good opportunity to deal with Lu Wenqing. Kill him. A sharp light flashed in Cheng Ting and Wang Liujuan's eyes as they charged towards Lu Wenqing. Rumble. Sword Qi filled the void, containing a vast amount of water attribute energy. It was like an endless sea, wanting to drown Lu Wenqing. Jade Sea Sword Art 100-layered waves. Wang Liujuan's eyes were incomparably sharp. As soon as the 100-layered waves appeared, the sky instantly changed color. The blazing sword intent was incomparably terrifying, causing Lu Wenqing's face to change drastically. On the other hand, Cheng Ting even aimed at the vital parts of his body with her bow and arrow. Under the joint attack of the two, even Lu Wenqing felt the danger of death. Bitch, His Highness Ji Lingyang will not let you go. Lu Wenqing's eyes were filled with resentment. He glared at Wang Lujun and Cheng Ting, and wanted to leave this place. This time, it could be said that he went for wool and came home shorn. Not only did he fail to capture Yi Liangchen and Fengya and snatch their points, even the experts that he had painstakingly recruited for so long had all died here. In an instant, he had become a loner. Kill. Wang Lujun only spat out a simple word. Suddenly, the 100-layered waves exploded. An endless sword Qi charged towards Lu Wenqing. Cheng Ting also shot out a silver arrow. It was like a dazzling meteor, extremely fast. It contained the power to pierce through everything, and it instantly arrived in front of Lu Wenqing. Lu Wenqing felt the danger of death, as if he was going to die here in the next moment. Buzz. A light flashed around his body, and in an instant, a jade talisman floated up and turned into a powerful defensive barrier, blocking the sword intent of the 100-layered waves and the arrow outside. However, a short moment later, the barrier exploded. The jade talisman was a life-saving item left by the dazzling Gold City's governor. In the end, after blocking the fatal attack, it still shattered. Lu Wenqing died. Even if Ji Lingyang is here, he won't be able to save you. Cheng Ting sneered. In an instant, another silver arrow was placed on the bowstring and aimed at Lu Wenqing's glabella. Is that so? At this moment, an indifferent and cold voice sounded in the void. Boom. The blazing light was dazzling, and streaks of auspicious qi filled the void. In an instant, a dazzling figure appeared in the sky and turned into a terrifying palm print, slamming down on Cheng Ting. Ji Lingyang. Cheng Ting's expression changed. Without hesitation, she shot an arrow at the terrifying palm print, and at the same time, her body retreated quickly. A divine light flashed in Wang Liujuan's eyes as well, and her sword slashed down on the huge palm print. Chapter 1276. Boom. Heaven and earth trembled. That huge palm print was surrounded by endless clear energy, as if it was the hand of a divine king. It contained unparalleled divine power, and it directly smashed Cheng Ting's arrow into pieces. Although Wang Liujuan's 100-layered waves was extremely powerful, that palm print seemed to encompass heaven and earth. At the same time, it also completely obliterated the power of the sword. Unparalleled divine power attacked. Cheng Ting and Wang Liujuan's expressions changed as they felt their bodies tremble. They couldn't help but retreat abruptly. In front of them, a young man in a purple dragon robe appeared. He looked extraordinary. His eyes were clear and his body exuded an incomparably powerful aura. He was the eldest prince of the great Zhou divine nation, Ji Lingyang. At this moment, his cultivation had already reached the complete true god realm. He was only one step away from breaking through to the heavenly god realm. In just a year's time, he had broken through 4 small realms from the complete divine spirit realm. Although there were countless opportunities in the great void secret realm, and Ji Lingyang's accumulation was incomparably strong, it was still incomparably terrifying and unimaginable. Following Ji Lingyang were dozens of figures with powerful auras. They were all experts of the divine spirit realm and true god realm. Their eyes were piercingly cold, and their auras were piercingly cold. They faintly surrounded Wang Liujun, Cheng Ting, Yiliangchen, and Fengya. Fairies, Lu Wenqing is my subordinate. I'm afraid it's not good for you to target him like this, right? Ji Lingyang looked indifferently at Cheng Ting and Wang Liujun and said slowly. A sharp light flashed in Wang Liujuan's eyes as she said coldly, Ji Lingyang, so what if Lu Wenqing is your subordinate? If he wants to deal with us, then he must be prepared to die. Cheng Ting also smiled faintly and said, Ji Lingyang, could it be that you're really planning to fight for him? However, both of them had a bad premonition in their hearts. Ji Lingyang's strength was too terrifying. The power of the Zhou Tian's sacred body was indeed extraordinary. If Ji Lingyang really wanted to fight, the two of them might not be able to defeat him even if they joined forces. Ji Lingyang said indifferently, Fairies, I naturally have no intention to offend you. However, please hand over these 2 people, and I can let you go. Ji Lingyang looked very calmly at Yiliangchen and Fengya. Impossible. Wang Liujun said firmly, Ji Lingyang, we can give you face. We won't deal with Lu Wenqing. However, please let the 2 people go. After all, they didn't offend you. Ji Lingyang smiled faintly. His eyes were filled with indifference, as if he had a high and mighty attitude. Wang Liujun, Cheng Ting, I don't think you too. I'm Feng, I don't dare. If you hand over the 2 of them today, you can leave. Otherwise, the 4 of you can stay here forever. Ji Lingyang's voice was very calm, but it was filled with an irresistible dominance and majesty. Yang, how dare you attack me, Yiliangchen? Feng's Feng to the Feng. Yan's twos. With your ant-like cultivation, are you worthy of having so many points? Being weak is your original sin. Since you don't know what's good for you, don't blame me for being rude. Boom. As soon as Ji Lingyang finished his sentence, he exuded a majestic aura. Divine light surged behind him. It was as if there was a vast and mysterious illusory world. The whole world was exuding a strange fluctuation. Zhou Tian's divine physique, Wang Liujun and Cheng Ting's faces changed slightly. This was the power of the divine physique. Ji Lingyang had fully activated the power of the divine physique. The terrifying aura made them feel extremely dignified. At this moment, a calm and indifferent voice sounded in the void. How do you want to be rude? Swoosh. In the distance, a golden divine light came across the sky. It was extremely fast. It instantly shot into the valley and landed in front of Yi Liangchen and the other three. He was wearing a white robe. His black hair fluttered in the wind. He looked extraordinary. His eyes were like lightning. However, there was a faint smile on his face. Long Aotian. Cheng Ting and Wang Lujun couldn't help but exclaim. There was a trace of surprise in their eyes. Ah, big brother, you're finally back. This bastard is too arrogant. Go and beat this bastard up. Yi Liangchen's eyes widened as he exchanged glances with Fengya. Both of them were extremely excited. It's you? Bastard. Your Highness, it's this guy who ruined my plan. I suspect that the inheritance of the Black Tortoise Saint is in his hands. As the saying goes, when enemies meet, their eyes turn red. Lu Wenqing's eyes turned red when he saw Ling Xiao. He recalled what happened in the inheritance of the Black Tortoise Saint. If it wasn't for this bastard, he would have obtained the inheritance of the Black Tortoise Saint. He had long suspected that Long Outyin had obtained the inheritance of the Black Tortoise Saint. Therefore, he immediately asked Ji Lingyang to get rid of Ling Xiao. The inheritance of the Black Tortoise Saint? Hearing Lu Wenqing's words, Ji Lingyang's eyes couldn't help but flash. Your Long Outyin? A mere complete divine spirit realm cultivator dares to behave atrociously in front of me? Since that's the case, you can stay here. Ji Lingyang said coldly. In an instant, he made up his mind to keep Ling Xiao here. He had heard about the inheritance of the Black Tortoise Saint from Lu Wenqing. Long Outyin might have obtained the inheritance of the Black Tortoise Saint. Moreover, his strength was probably on par with Lu Wenqing. As long as he could take him down, he would naturally know if he had obtained the inheritance of the Black Tortoise Saint. The inheritance of the Black Tortoise Saint moved Ji Lingyang's heart. A complete sacred artifact was considered a national treasure in the Great Zhou divine nation. He definitely couldn't miss it. You want to keep me here? Let's see if you have the ability to do so. Coincidentally, I'm also interested in your points. Just give them to me. Ling Xiao said with a faint smile. His eyes revealed a trace of strong fighting spirit. The first place on the scoreboard, the Great Zhou divine nation's crown prince, Ji Lingyang, who possessed the Zhou Tian Saint physique. Ling Xiao's heart was filled with fighting spirit. As long as he could rob Ji Lingyang, Ling Xiao would definitely be the first place on the scoreboard. It would save him the trouble of looking for points. You want my points? Very well, let's see if you can take it. Chapter 1277. Kacha. The void trembled. Ji Lingyang's unparalleled fist imprint contained a trace of purple lightning, which made his fist immensely powerful and had a fluctuation that could destroy everything. This was the Zhou Tian Thunder God Fist, one of the peerless martial arts of the Great Zhou divine nation. Everyone thought that the Great Overlord Sky Tyrant divine body was very strong, but what they didn't know was that Ji Lingyang's Zhou Tian sacred body was even more terrifying than the Sky Tyrant divine body. Therefore, when Ji Lingyang made his move, everyone could feel the vast and unparalleled vitality force. Good. Ling Xiao's eyes were bright and resplendent. He could feel a trace of pressure from Ji Lingyang's fist imprint. However, it was just a trace of pressure. Ling Xiao had experienced 100 reincarnations in the 3 stages of the heart-tempering stage. His heart had long been perfected. In addition, his battle with the Sky Emperor's avatar had made his martial arts more perfect. He also threw out a punch. The golden fist imprint illuminated the void, containing a terrifying fluctuation of power. Bang! When the 2 fists collided, Ling Xiao and Ji Lingyang both trembled and retreated at the same time. Ji Lingyang's expression changed slightly. He was a realm higher than Ling Xiao and had the Zhou Tian sacred body. However, he could feel that Ling Xiao's physical strength was extremely terrifying and not inferior to his at all. He felt as if he was facing a human-shaped Tyrannosaurus, causing his arms to feel numb. You only have an ordinary physique, not a divine body or a sacred body. You're a god physique? Ji Lingyang's eyes were filled with shock. Only a god physique could have such terrifying power. Ling Zhao's body trembled slightly in the void. At the same time, he turned into a golden stream of light and activated the terrifying divine power around him. He threw another punch at Ji Lingyang. Ling Xiao wanted to see how strong Ji Lingyang's Zhou Tian sacred body was. Although Ji Lingyang was an entire realm higher than Ling Xiao, Ling Zhao's physical body had reached perfection, and his martial arts had reached perfection. Thus, a casual strike from him was comparable to his previous full-strength attack. Ji Lingyang's expression was solemn. Zhou Tian's Thunder God's fist was unleashed. Purple lightning flashed all over his body. His fist imprint was unparalleled, as if it had turned into a vast world of thunder and lightning, pressing down on Ling Xiao. Bang bang bang. Ling Xiao and Ji Lingyang clashed fiercely. Both of their qi and blood were incomparably vigorous. Every time they collided, the surrounding void would tremble, and the surrounding mountains would rumble violently. Ling Zhao's body had become a god, and he also possessed the power of the divine dragon body. Ji Lingyang, on the other hand, possessed the saint body of Zhou Tian. Both of their bodies were extremely terrifying. A competitive spirit was born in their hearts. They wanted to test the limits of their opponent's physical body. Whoosh! The void trembled, and dazzling divine light shone in all directions. Ling Xiao and Ji Lingyang, one was like a golden dragon soaring through the 9 heavens, possessing extreme speed. The other was like a divine king who controlled thunder and lightning, dominating all directions. Every collision was incomparably terrifying. Long Outyin can actually fight Ji Lingyang to a standstill? Does he have the body of a divine beast? Wang Lujun was incomparably shocked. Cheng Ting and Lu Wenqing were indescribably excited. One should know that Ling Zhao's true strength was probably on par with Lu Wenqing in the Xuanwu Saints' land of inheritance. But now he was actually able to fight Ji Lingyang to a standstill. Cheng Ting was pleasantly surprised, while Lu Wenqing's expression became increasingly unsightly. Bang! Ling Zhao's qi and blood were like dragons. Rays of golden divine light circled around his body, making him look like the king of divine dragons. His aura was extremely terrifying. Wrapped in divine force, he threw a punch at Ji Lingyang, and actually sent Ji Lingyang flying. Ji Lingyang's eyes revealed a trace of coldness. He felt his arms go numb, and the blood in his body was boiling. His physical strength was actually inferior to Ling Zhao's, which was something he couldn't accept. Long Outyin, your physical body is indeed very strong, but it's a pity that your cultivation is still too weak. Take my Zhou Tian's lightning control technique. Ji Lingyang's eyes flashed sharply. Suddenly, his body exuded a holy and mysterious aura. Purple lightning flashed, causing the surrounding void to tremble slightly. He slapped his palm toward Ling Xiao. Purple lightning gathered in the sky, blotting out the sky and covering the earth. It contained an extreme killing intent. It's Zhou Tian's lightning control technique? This is the great Zhou divine nation's saint art. Long Outyin is dead for sure. Lu Wenqing's body trembled, and a trace of resentment appeared in his eyes. Zhou Tian's lightning control technique was the supreme saint art of the great Zhou divine nation. It was extremely powerful. Coupled with Ji Lingyang's Zhou Tian sacred body, it could erupt with incomparably terrifying power. Zhou Tian's lightning control technique? Come at me. Ling Zhao's eyes shone brightly. In the face of such a vast and unparalleled power, he actually took advantage of the situation and leaped forward, crossing 1,000 feet in a single step. Divine power gathered around him, and the divine light of the 4 divisions flickered on his fist. In an instant, a chaotic fist print blasted forward. Roar! Roar! The roars of dragons, tigers, phoenixes, and turtles resounded through the sky. Following the explosion of the primal chaos fist, the shadows of the 4 sacred beasts actually appeared around Ling Xiao. The ancestral dragon, white tiger, true phoenix, and black tortoise intertwined, making Ling Xiao look like a celestial emperor who controlled the heavens. It was extremely terrifying. The shadows of the 4 sacred beasts actually appeared. What kind of martial art is this? Everyone was shocked, and their eyes were filled with disbelief. They felt that Ling Xiao's fist contained an unparalleled fist intent. It was like the divine sun above the 9 heavens, mighty and unparalleled. It actually made their hearts palpitate. Boom. This time, it was as if heaven and earth were falling apart, and the sun and moon were collapsing. In an instant, an unparalleled divine light storm was set off. Ling Xiao's Four Guardians sky-striking style used the Four Guardians' origin energy to obliterate and contain everything. It was like the chaos, and there was nothing it could tolerate. The purple lightning formed by Zhou Tian's lightning control technique collided with the chaotic fist print. Both sides were annihilated in the void, and a destructive divine power swept out in all directions. Ji Lingyang's body shook, and he suddenly felt a sweet taste in his throat. He couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood, and his whole body flew backward. His body was shrouded in a mysterious holy light and clear air, which dissolved the unparalleled divine power. Although he didn't suffer any serious injuries, his face was extremely ugly. Crack. Ling Xiao's eyes flickered with divine light. He also suffered from the rebounding force, but he managed to withstand it. Instead of retreating, he turned into a beam of golden light, passing through the divine light storm, and striking towards Ji Lingyang with his palm. Chapter 1278. The Divine Firmament Sword. It was a famous sacred treasure in the ancient times. Although it was damaged and only had the power of a half-step sacred treasure, it was still not something an ordinary person could withstand. His heart was filled with murderous intent. Long Outyan's talent was too terrifying. His cultivation was at the complete divine spirit realm, which was one realm lower than him, but he still had the upper hand. Such a person must die. Bang. The void shook slightly as Ling Xiao broke through Ji Lingyang's palm blade. Golden light flashed around his body as he dodged the divine firmament sword's sharp edge. He turned around and slapped the divine firmament sword's blade. Buzz. A mysterious sound wave vibrated, and a dazzling sword aura erupted. It shrouded Ling Xiao as if it was going to turn him into dust. Clang. The sky-devouring sword flashed and appeared in Ling Xiao's palm. The dazzling sword light flickered, and a vast and powerful sword intent spread out. Ling Xiao held the sky-devouring sword and slashed at the divine firmament sword. The destruction sword Dao exploded, causing the sky-devouring sword to contain a mysterious Taoist rhyme. The surrounding void trembled slightly. The destruction sword Dao and the divine firmament sword collided and burst out a dazzling light. Whoosh! With the help of the collision, Ji Lingyang flew back and rushed out of the area covered by the sword intent. His face was extremely ugly. He never thought that Ling Xiao's strength would be so terrifying. If he did not have the divine firmament sword, he might have been defeated by Ling Xiao. Go kill him. Ji Lingyang's eyes flashed with killing intent as he pointed at Ling Xiao. Kill. Ji Lingyang's subordinates were stunned for a moment. Then their eyes flashed with killing intent as they displayed powerful martial arts and charged at Ling Xiao. Shameless. Cheng Ting sneered and instantly shot an arrow. She attacked together with Wang Lujun, ready to help Ling Xiao. They did not expect that Ji Lingyang would not hesitate to let his subordinates attack Ling Xiao when he was not a match for him. A bunch of trash. Ji Lingyang. Even you are not a match for my brother. What's the use of this bunch of trash? Yu Liangchen sneered. His eyes were filled with disdain. Slash. Ling Xiao stared at the people who were charging towards him. His eyes flashed, and the devouring heaven's sword emitted a resplendent light. Sword chi intertwined and exploded in a mighty manner. Whoosh. Ling Xiao held the sky-devouring sword in his hand and leaped into the sky. A dazzling sword chi that resembled the Milky Way slashed down towards the crowd. It was endless and powerful. The faces of those who were charging towards Ling Xiao changed as they felt the threat of death. Their scalps went numb, but at this moment, they had no way to retreat. They all executed their most powerful martial arts and charged towards Ling Xiao with all their might. Rumble. Powerful divine weapons soared into the sky, accompanied by powerful martial arts. The void was filled with dazzling light. However, when the heaven-devouring sword descended from the sky, regardless of whether it was the divine weapons or the martial arts, they all exploded and turned into a divine light storm. As for those experts, It was as if they had been struck by lightning. They suddenly spat out mouthfuls of blood, and their auras instantly became incomparably weak. Ji Lingyang, hand over your points and I can spare your life. Ling Xiao pointed his sword at Ji Lingyang and said indifferently, You want my points? You don't have that ability. Long Outyin, this isn't over. Let's go. Ji Lingyang looked deeply at Ling Xiao with an ugly expression. However, he knew that he wouldn't be able to gain anything by staying, so he immediately turned to leave. Did I say you could leave? Ling Xiao's eyes flickered with divine light as he slammed his palm towards Ji Lingyang. Rumble. The invisible divine light was dazzling. Ling Xiao's palm contained the power of 5 elements birth and death. It instantly transformed into a vast 5 elements realm and enveloped Ji Lingyang. 5 elements heaven sealing style. During the battle with the Heavenly Emperor, Ling Xiao had also comprehended this style to the great perfection realm, and it possessed an incomparably mysterious power. Break for me. Ji Lingyang's expression changed drastically. The divine firmament sword in his hand emitted a dazzling light. Streaks of purple lightning gathered, and the sword chi rose. Then, it suddenly slashed towards the 5 elements realm in front of him. Rumble. Ling Xiao's body flickered with divine light, like a golden divine dragon soaring through the sky. The sky-devouring sword in his hand directly met the divine firmament sword. Although the sky-devouring sword was only a supreme-grade divine artifact, it had the innate Spirit King as its artifact spirit. Moreover, Ling Xiao had even activated the Holy Path sword intent. For a moment, it actually resisted the divine firmament sword. Ling Xiao punched towards Ji Lingyang with unparalleled ferocity. Long Outyin, do you really want to fight to the death with me? Ji Lingyang was enraged, and his eyes were filled with cold killing intent. Fight to the death. Then you'll be the one to die. Ling Xiao sneered, but his punch didn't have the slightest hesitation. It was as if he was determined to kill Ji Lingyang. Long Outyin, I'll remember you. One day, I'll make you pay with your blood. Ji Lingyang glared at Ling Xiao, then decisively crushed a jade talisman. Suddenly, a powerful force enveloped him, and the divine firmament soared. In an instant, they broke through the void and disappeared in front of Ling Xiao. It's actually a holy path talisman? As expected of the prince of the great Zhou divine nation, he's really rich. Ling Xiao's eyes revealed a trace of pity. However, he also knew that if Ji Lingyang wanted to escape, he couldn't stop him. After all, in the trial grounds, there were countless pairs of eyes watching. Ling Xiao couldn't use many of his methods. When Ji Lingyang escaped, Lu Wenqing and the others were dumbfounded. They never thought that Ji Lingyang would suffer such a crushing defeat. Moreover, after being defeated, he directly fled, leaving them all here. Cheng Ting, Wang Lujun, Yi Liangchen, and Feng Ye were all excited. Their eyes were filled with excitement. Ji Lingyang was publicly recognized as the strongest person. If Ling Xiao defeated Ji Lingyang, didn't that mean that Ling Xiao was the strongest person in this great void trial? More importantly, Ling Xiao's cultivation was only at the perfected divine spirit realm. Once he grew to Ji Lingyang's level, perhaps even a heavenly god wouldn't be his match. It was just a pity that they didn't snatch Ji Lingyang's points. Do you want to live or die? Ling Xiao glanced at Lu Wenqing and the others indifferently. Everyone's face instantly turned ugly. They understood Ling Xiao's meaning. If they wanted to live, they had to hand over the points in the Great Void token. If they didn't, then Ling Xiao would kill them. Although they could return to the Great Void ancient city in 3 breaths' time by crushing the Great Void token, these 3 breaths' time were probably enough for Ling Xiao to kill them. After all, they didn't have a cultivation as strong as Ji Lingyang. Facing Ling Xiao's sharp gaze, Lu Wenqing couldn't help but lower his head. However, his eyes were filled with resentment, and his teeth were about to shatter. Chapter 1279. Long Outyin, you win. I can give you the points in the Great Void token as long as you let me go. Lu Wenqing suppressed the anger and killing intent in his heart. He had no choice but to bow down to Ling Xiao. Others can leave after handing over their points, but you can't. You have 2 options. Either you crush the Great Void token or you die. Ling Xiao said calmly. Long Outyin, don't push me too far. Lu Wenqing raised his head abruptly. His eyes were filled with rage. If he handed over his points, he could still snatch points from others. Although there were only 3 days left, he might be able to enter the top 1,000 again. However, if he crushed the Great Void token, he would really be eliminated. Push me too far? Just now, when you brought so many people and wanted to steal our points, why didn't you say that you were going too far? Wang Lujun said coldly as she looked at Lu Wenqing. Hehe, you should be satisfied that my big brother spared your life. Otherwise, you can leave your life behind. Yi Liangchen chuckled as he looked down at Lu Wenqing and said, All right. Long Outian, just you wait. You will die in my hands. When that time comes, I will make you beg for death. Lu Wenqing was filled with anger as he glared at Ling Xiao. Then he crushed the Great Void token. Boom. After the Cosmos Medallion was shattered, a bright white light instantly surrounded him. The points in the Cosmos Medallion turned into a bright white light. That was all of Lu Wenqing's points. At this moment, they were floating in front of Ling Xiao. Naturally, Ling Xiao did not hold back. He immediately took out the Great Void token and absorbed all the points. Lu Wenqing also instantly disappeared in front of Ling Xiao. Lu Wenqing had been sent back to the Great Void Ancient City. This meant that he was eliminated. The remaining people were all silent. None of them dared to say anything. They handed over all the points in the Great Void token to Ling Xiao and ran away as if they had been pardoned from a great crime. Boom. The Great Void token in Ling Xiao's hand shone brightly, and the points in it became 1,425,000. Ling Xiao's ranking shot up like a rocket. He surpassed Cheng Ting and became the 4th place on the scoreboard. He was only behind Ji Lingyang, Xiongba, and Evil Sword. Sure enough, robbing rich people benefits the most. It's a pity that Ji Lingyang escaped. Ling Xiao looked at the points on his Great Void token and was extremely satisfied. With his current points, he could easily enter Aries College. However, Ling Xiao still had his sights set on the champion position. Hence, 4th place was not enough. He had to fight his way into 1st place in order to obtain the 10 drops of holy liquid. The saint liquid could be said to be priceless and extremely precious. It was a cultivation resource that was far more valuable than god stones and god crystals. It contained an incomparably vast amount of energy. 10 drops of the saint liquid was enough to push Ling Xiao's cultivation to the true god realm. Therefore, Ling Xiao was determined to obtain the position of the champion. Big brother, you are you? Ha. Why don't we go and kill Ji Lingyang, Swordsmanship and Xiongba, and snatch all their points? Yi Liangchen laughed and his eyes were filled with eagerness. Ling Xiao was ranked last on the scoreboard. He had surpassed hundreds of thousands of challengers and reached the 4th place. This speed was indeed terrifying. That's a good suggestion. Long Outian, you want to be the champion, right? Let's go kill those 3 guys and snatch their points. You will definitely be the champion. Cheng Ting said as if she wanted to see the world in chaos. Look, their points are rising rapidly. I'm afraid they're also starting to speed up their points collection. Wang Lujun suddenly looked at the scoreboard and said slowly. On the scoreboard, Ji Lingyang, Xiongba, and Evil Sword's points were increasing rapidly. Obviously, they were combining the points of the challengers and wanted to be the champion. The position of champion not only represented glory, but also many rewards. Xiongba and Evil Sword would definitely not be willing to be suppressed by Ji Lingyang. We don't need to collect points. Ji Lingyang, Xiongba, Evil Sword, Lu Yan and the rest can just snatch a few points and it will be enough for me to be the champion. Why don't we snatch from those big dogs on the scoreboard? Ling Xiao's eyes flashed as he said with a faint smile. Big brother is right. I have long disliked those bastards. Let's just snatch their points. Yi Liangchen laughed. However, if others were to find out that the 5 people in this valley were the 5 people in the top 10 on the scoreboard, it was likely that everyone would rush over to snatch their points at all costs. After all, on the surface, their strength was too confusing. Ling Xiao, Yi Liangchen and Feng Ye were all in the divine spirit realm, but they had so many points. Who else could they snatch from other than them? As Ji Lingyang's subordinates fled, the result of the battle between Ling Xiao and Ji Lingyang quickly spread throughout the training grounds. A divine spirit realm kid called Long Outyin actually defeated Ji Lingyang, who had the holy ground of Zhoutian. This news immediately caused an uproar. Who is Long Outyin? I've never heard of him. A mere divine spirit realm can actually defeat His Highness Ji Lingyang? This kind of rumor is too unreliable. That's right. I heard that His Highness Ji Lingyang's cultivation has already reached the complete true God realm. In addition to his holy ground of Zhoutian, even Xiongba wasn't his opponent. What ability does that Long Outyin guy have? But look, that guy called Long Outyin actually rushed to the 4th place on the scoreboard, and the Peach Blossom Prince, Lu Wenqing, who was originally at the 7th place on the scoreboard, actually disappeared? Is he eliminated? Long Outyin can actually defeat Lu Wenqing? His combat strength can't be underestimated. Everyone was discussing, but almost no one believed that Ling Xiao could defeat Ji Lingyang. They all scoffed at the news. When Jianxia and Xiongba heard the news, they couldn't sit still. Long Outyin defeated Ji Lingyang? Nothing comes from learning. I'm afraid it's really possible. He might have obtained the inheritance of the Black Tortoise Saint. Jianxia's eyes were filled with seriousness, and an extremely strong fear of Long Outyin rose in his heart. Long Outyin's strength actually became so strong? In the next 3 days, we definitely can't meet him face to face. Otherwise, if we fail miserably, that would be a big joke. Xiongba's heart was also incomparably shocked. At the same time, he decided that as long as he saw Ling Xiao, he would run far away and definitely not meet him face to face. If something happened in the last 3 days, then it would really be a failure. At this moment, in a flaming mountain in the south, a young man in a black robe and a young man in a green robe scoffed at the news, and even began to secretly plot. P.S. 4th update, everyone rest early. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.